What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to tonight's live stream broadcast of Pick Six, Washington State Prep Football Show. We are your hosts, Nick Sisson and Matt Evans. N2, Evans Rankings. Proud to be here once again. Matt, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Hopefully we can get the boy down to sleep and keep him sleeping tonight.
Yeah, I can. You got the 6-inch voice. I can tell that
Oh
it's.
yeah.
Let's be careful. We're gonna be deliberate and get right to the point here tonight.
Love it.
And first, I'll just say again on air, I just said off air, but happy anniversary to Mr.
Thank you.
Matt Evans over there, recently celebrating 8 years of marriage to his wife, who went to another high school, went to Southridge, and he went to Hanford. So I don't know if that's a no in the hierarchy of relationships over in the Tri Cities area. I'll yield to you on that one.
It could be worse. It could be worse, but we do our anniversary treat this year is tomorrow night, the old Evans Bowl, Hanford Southridge football tomorrow at Lamson. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, in this neck of the woods, we've got R.A. Long and Mark Morris graduates that marry one another. So you want to talk about, split household, man. It's like a cougar and a husky marrying each other. Well, I don't have a pun or a segue with cougars or huskies to stroll right into, other than the fact that the Cougars won, remain unranked. The Huskies did not win because they were off, and they have an opponent in front of them that's always ranked. And they're going to play Indiana coming up this week. So that was the best that I could do. I could talk a little bit about a Wildcat and a Lion, because two teams got together that are from the Cat family, the Linden Lions and the Archbishop Murphy Wildcats. And boy, I think that collectively a lot of people in the state didn't have a three-way potential tie on their bingo card in the Northwest Conference this year. I think that for the most part, I'll include myself into the I think portion, that I thought Anacortes would probably be the favorite to win the league, and might have done so without losing a game. Linden just all of a sudden comes in and opens up a huge can of worms up in the Northwest Conference with the victory 7-3 over Archbishop last week. A low scoring, dominating game. We talked about it last week, Matt. Some areas of the state, it's going to be the first game of rain, for anybody to deal with. And elements can always play a factor in how the game ultimately goes. And Linden proves that it still has very, very reliable defense. And, they're a team that usually gets better throughout the course of a year. And for Archbishop, this is a tough loss for them to endure, but by all means, they're not out of it. But between the three teams, Anacortes, Archbishop, and Linden, it seems that the tougher path to remaining in a first-place tie is going to be for Archbishop Murphy, knowing that they still have to go head-to-head with Seaholm, the next best team in the Northwest 2A. What were your takeaways or thoughts based on that result?
Yeah, exactly. The weather definitely had a huge factor on all those games up there in the Northwest Conference. From all intents purposes, I heard that the field was just an absolute, like it was pretty much on Alaska type field conditions up there, and the score obviously indicative of that 7-3. I think the biggest thing this year is that it's not necessarily as usually a three-way tie would be just a huge deal, because you've got that the one seed is going to play like the 4 seed of so and so and blah blah and yada yada yada. But this year with the round of 32, it's not necessarily. I mean, having the league championship is probably an official league championship may give you a little bit of a boost, but I don't think that it's going to have a huge impact being co-champions just with how strong they all are.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if it's necessary to have an actual Kansas City tiebreaker, knowing that 4 teams are going to be going to the postseason from Northwest. It seems like something that you might see out of like the Friday Night Lights movie, where they all get together at a restaurant and they flip a coin. Granted, there might be a contingency of coaches that don't want the fate of ultimately where they play to be determined by a coin, but I'll let you respond before I interject my next thought on the matter.
I just don't think that it really matters. It's just this year it's going to go to a committee. They're all probably going to be top 6, top 7 anyway. And I think that it's just arbitrary who the quote league champion is going to be. Co-champion is, it's at the end of the day, that's not the championship that you want. So I would be very, very surprised if they do a Kansas City tiebreaker, considering no teams would be eliminated in this. And I just, I could just see them going, okay, it's a three-way tie. Let's just have it out and let's go.
Yeah, I don't see the benefit of doing it. I mean, just from experience last year, I'll just use this as an example. One head coach that I talked to that was in a Kansas City tiebreaker before heading into the slate of games over the weekend was, hey, we just wanted to come out of this thing healthy. We didn't want to see a guy go down, that we were going to rely on. So, we were going to call our best 5 plays. We weren't going to kick an extra point. We were going to get out of there with a win, or we were going to get out of there with a loss right away. And that's pretty much what, I think most coaches should probably do in that scenario, unless we're talking about the type of tiebreaker to where you're either in the playoffs or you're not. So, I mean, those are obviously ones where you have to kind of, throw the kitchen sink at, your opponents to try to make sure that you at least make it there.
Exactly. And in all honesty, if a league decides to have a Kansas City tiebreaker and every team's in the playoffs, just scrap it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, either way, right? Like that's kind of what I wanted to let you interject. You said that you think that these 3 teams are more than likely going to be in the top 7 of the class. I mean, I kind of wanted to pose that question to you, and you answered it without me having the ability to. But I agree that these 3 teams are deserving, right, for the top 7. Could an undefeated team like a West Valley, a Franklin Pierce, obviously with WF West and Tumwater, there's still a game to be played this week, actually. I can't wait to talk a little bit about that game coming up. But it seems that those teams might be left behind, all 3 of those teams. Just the perception that I'm getting is that you could end up seeing Linden and Archbishop and Anacortes above any of like West Valley or Franklin Pierce, even at an undefeated level. What would you say to that? Do you think that's accurate, or do you think that there's going to be more of a reward system for a league champion here?
I think there should be a consideration for not necessarily a reward, but I think that even not necessarily league champion, but in some cases, district champion, I think you're going to see those guys get protected and make sure that they're getting a home game. I think that the only classification where that's really going to be a big thing is 2A, where you're going to get, the winner of Chief South and Renton getting a bid, getting a home game, essentially. Other than that, I think that every team that's going to be a champion will be in the top 16 or top 12, whether, depending on what class they're in. Yeah, I went through and did a simulation of the last couple weeks, and they actually had all 3 of those teams in the top 7. I had Anacortes at 4, Archbishop at 5, and Linden at 7. I also had West Valley at 6. I think the biggest thing is like now that a team like Othello has lost, Orting's got a loss. I think that there's more of a clear path for those teams to all be in that top group there.
Yeah, I think a team that really took a step backwards, and not only for themselves, but for their entire league is Othello. And, that's kind of a harsh criticism, because I do think there's a lot of really good football. I think it's indicative that there's really good football in the CWAC, especially with Prosser coming up and winning this game at 4-3, beating a team that's undefeated and ranked in the top 10 in most media outlets. The computer somewhat likes Othello as well. But I don't think that you're going to see a team from the CWAC rewarded in this sense. I think that even if Othello wins their last couple of games, that now there are some scenarios. They play, I believe, Toppenish this week, and if Toppenish wins that game, now they've thrown the CWAC into a 2-loss champion, and you could see a 3-way, 4-way tie in that conference. So, I mean, for the week that just occurred, Prosser had probably the biggest win, for a team that's fringe, and for Othello, I mean, it's a tough time to take a loss. No time is good, right? But there are good losses and bad losses. If you do lose, you kind of want to lose early. You never really want to lose late, and you especially don't want to lose big to a team with 3 losses towards the end of it. I think it hurts the perception of the league. How would you think about that if we were sitting at the bar having that conversation?
I think that I honestly think that I don't think it necessarily hurts the whole CWAC as a whole. I think if anything, it kind of strengthens it. By now, you can say, okay, there are actually 5 legitimate teams or 6 legitimate teams here. Toppin is just really surprised this year, in my opinion. East Valley has been a very, very pleasant surprise. Efraid has kind of struggled. We thought they were going to be there. They still have a shot. They went out. They're 5-3. They've got a shot to sneak in there. For Prosser, I mean, I was kind of thinking about it before we came on air here. Thinking about I can't really call that win over Othello an upset because in Prosser they expect to win every game, so it's not an upset. They just expect to do that. But
Sure.
I think that at the end of the day, while it's not going to be good for Othello, I think the CWAC as a whole, I think that's going to be a good thing to show that there is more depth there than in some of their leagues.
Let's move on a little bit outside of 2A here because there were games that actually took place out of the 2A classification this last week, despite what I mainly know. One that jumped off the page at me, it doesn't surprise me that Lake Stevens has reeled off 5 straight, Matt. But I can't remember a time that I saw Ferndale lose a football game 63-6. Mm-hmm. I do get that Ferndale's a class lower, but Ferndale's a very proud program in the 3A ranks. And I got to tell you right now, that's a real bad sign for everybody in the 4A ranks. And sticking in that same league in the 4A Wesco, we picked the game last week between Arlington and Glacier Peak, and we were split on it. And Glacier Peak ends up pulling off the win 10-7. I happened to see the media polls today, and the media polls still has Arlington at 8th in the 4A and Glacier Peak unranked. I mean, what else do you got to do besides beat the team head to head to win over the media pundits?
Yeah, when it comes to 4A, I mean, it's wild. I think that after the top 3, I think that you pretty much can throw a dart at 4 through, like 16, 18, and actually, I mean, you could make an argument for just about anybody. I mean, I haven't looked too closely at the media poll. I tried to, but didn't really get a chance to today. But, I think that Arlington's still getting kind of more of the carryover from, the last few years. We've seen them, always highly ranked in 3A and whatnot. And I don't know. Yeah, that kind of surprised me that they're still up there and Glacier Peak's unranked.
But back to Lake Stevens real quick. I mean, that seems like really bad news for everybody in the 4A class right now. I mean, we could probably agree that the 4A class is like the most unpredictable when it comes to filling out the bracket. I think that if you go deep, right, like even in this South Puget Sound League, right, there's going to be some teams in the 3rd, 4th place spots down there that are going to get in a crossover game, and someone's going to be in a battle for their life. We've seen it throughout the course of the year. Teams like Bethel, teams like Curtis, they can put up games at any point, but if the defending 2-time champs are starting to get rolling and they're winning games against a team like Ferndale 63-6, granted, this is kind of a down year for Ferndale. It still kind of shows that Lake Stevens has got the wheels turning in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as we get closer, I think as of right now, I think my hot take for the 4A week 10 is I think you're going to see 5 lower seeded teams or 5 road teams beat home teams. I see 5. I'd put an over under at 4.5. I'd take the over.
Another team that's getting hot at the right time, not that they were really cold at any point, but in the 4A class and can sew up the league championship with a win this week is Graham-Kapowson. Graham-Kapowson is an Eastside Catholic blowout and a late Skyview collapse away from being undefeated here. And again, you want to talk about a team that you don't want to see get going. I mean, this has been a great learning season for them, starting a freshman quarterback. And now they've gotten to the point here to where they just beat Yelm convincingly a couple weeks ago. That's another team like, if they got matched up, let's say, against the Skyview again, I mean, I would feel pretty good about Graham-Kapowson going forward, knowing that they had a 17-0 lead on the road there. They're another team where winning a league championship, I could see them somewhere in like that 6-5 range, going into the playoff crossover round or and beyond. And that's a team that I wouldn't hesitate to see in the semifinals, maybe even a championship game.
Yeah, they have, in my opinion, in 4A, they have the biggest opportunity to have a positive impact on their seeding in the next 2 weeks. Obviously they play Spanaway Lake this week. That's probably a winnable game. Let's just assume they win that game. Then they're going to
Hmm.
go into the SPSL championship game next week. More than likely playing Sumner. It's either going to be Sumner or Emerald Ridge, whoever wins that game this week. And so I mean, you say GK beats Spanaway Lake convincingly, and then they beat like a Sumner or something. I mean, that's a huge boost for them. That's going to be just, I mean, that's going to throw another wrench in there because I feel like Sumner's a top 3 team. So then what are we going to do if GK beats them in the SPSL championship game? It's going to be wild. There's so many moving parts and so many cogs. It's just, it's really fun to follow.
Yeah, last little point. Well, I don't know about last little point, but since we're on 4A, I had to mention, just Jake Mo threw it into the comment section here. Jake knows exactly what my mind was thinking. I mean, if we're talking about teams that we really don't want to match up with, let's be real here. I mean, Camas has looked dominant pretty much all year, and if you look back at their entire schedule here, Matt, you'll see that game number 1 against Roosevelt was their toughest game that they've had so far this season, and in a 12-6 battle there. They won't have to match up with Roosevelt or any Metro League team for that matter in the 4A playoffs there. And Camas just dismantled Battleground, a team that's fairly decent, in the area, just made it look super easy in the First Graders St. Helens League game. I think that they're obviously barring a major slip up here, that the definitive number 1 heading into the tournament stretch. And, this is a team that played down on the road in Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene came out and jumped on them early, and Camas has the composure. They got a great quarterback who is just blowing it up down here, Davidson. And I really think that Camas is playing the best football that they've played since they won the state championship a few years back.
Yeah, I agree. I think that really, if you're looking at the 4A hierarchy right now, I think Camas is clear tier A, number 1. I think Sumner, Lake Stevens are that 2, 3, number 2, tier B. And then the next tier after that, you could throw 25 teams in there and just, make a case for any of them. I mean, just when I was going through and doing my rankings this week, my 4A, just my rankings, I was looking at it going, I could talk about this team. I could talk about this team. I could talk about this team. And I mean, I literally have 20 teams down here with 5 or 6 that I don't even have ranked on here. I mean, I don't even have like Eastmont or, Emerald Ridge or, somebody like Jackson who's 5-2. I mean, I have some of those teams that aren't even Bethel. I don't even have these guys like on my radar right now. Outside of my top 20, it's wild how many good programs there are and just how insane this tournament's going to be.
Yeah, and I believe Wesco 4A, Matt, I think that they've got 5 teams with winning records currently.
They
with Jackson, Kamiak, Glacier Peak, Arlington, and Lake Stevens. So I mean, you don't have to search far to find tough competition up and down each league, and the 4A class is going to offer competition super deep. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen, right? But we once did an NCAA basketball, right? A 16 beating 1.
Mm-hmm.
What are the odds of something like that happening? And I think that in the 4A class, I think the odds are as good as, any. I'd give it like a 25-30% chance of happening. And I think that that's being kind of modest, to be honest with you. You mentioned Eastmont, right? I don't know if Moses Lake would slip as far down to 16, but I think that they could slip to be in a double-digit seed just based on their overall league strength. But they're a team that if they're a double-digit seed, I wouldn't want to play with them in the first round in 16. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, in all honesty, if Moses Lake drops to a double-digit seed, it's not anything indicative on them. It's just the strength of everybody else. That's going to be the thing. Is you're going to look at some teams, in the 11 to 16 range, you're going to be like, why are they there? It's just like because the other teams are just a little bit better. It's not saying that they're a bad team. They're just not the best of the teams that are still available.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Emerald Ridge because they're another team that's kind of right in the thick of things in the South Puget Sound League, and they're not really being, thought of heavily. So they're a team that
great letter combination.
Yeah, exactly. ER, right? Let's stick in your neck of the woods real quick here. I saw you tweet something over the weekend about Chiawana and about how maybe you could have underestimated what they've accomplished so far. I'll tell you what, they put together a really impressive win against Kennewick over the weekend.
Yeah, they did. They they figured out exactly how to attack Kennewick and how to exploit their weakness. And I don't think there's many weaknesses in Kennewick. And Chiawana found them. And I'll tell you, I had some buddies at the game on Friday night who were keeping me posted, and they've been kind of razzing me this year about, hey, why aren't you ranking Chiawana? Why aren't you ranking Chiawana? I'm just like, I'm just not sure yet. And then, saw that result and was like, all right, here we go. It's and it's like I said, it's nothing against Chiawana. There's so many really good teams that I'm kind of like that I feel more confident in, that I think I kind of have a pulse of like what they are. But yeah, no, I think Chiawana's, they finally shown me that, hey, they're the real deal, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Well, it's always better to be right late than to be wrong early.
Florida State.
Brian has a good comment. Says, keep in mind Skyview has a 1-point road loss at Decatur and a loss to Westland without their starting quarterback. Camus and Skyview week 9 will be a great game. I fully believe that, Brian, and not to toot Camus's horn or oil their machine. Hint. Skyview just has a Camus problem. It seems that the talent has been at Skyview for the last couple of years, and that there have been opportunities to beat Camus. Just haven't been able to take advantage of those opportunities. Call it, good scheming, good game planning, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, I think Skyview's got a mental obstacle in front of them more so than an actual physical opponent. Yes, you do got to go out and play a physical opponent and win the game, and you have to out execute your opponent. But at the same time, I think Skyview's just kind of got Camus in their head a little bit. Obviously, Matt. I mean, streaks are meant to be broken. Otherwise, the Ducks would be up on the Huskies like 20 games in a row right now. So obviously it's going to happen at some point. And yeah, I think Skyview does have maybe the most individual dynamic player in the Greater St. Helens League in Gavin Packer. But it takes 11 guys out there to go out there and to go out there and win a game. And I'd put Camus's schedule, league, non-league, up against anybody. I mean,
absolutely.
I think they've played a tremendously tough schedule in non-league. I think Graham Kapowson's played a tough schedule. I think Lake Stevens has played one of the toughest schedules. I mean, you can look all up and down, and find teams that have challenged themselves. Skyview's challenged themselves. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think I think Decatur's a lot better than what people are really giving them credit for to this point.
Oh, they are.
You're not. Sorry. Let's put it this way, man. You're not undefeated at week 7 because you're a bad football team in any stretch. Okay. I mean, I know that there's doormats that you can walk over along the way to start padding your record, but you're not playing doormats by week 7, week 8. You're playing league opponents that know you very well and study you very well. And, they may not be the cream of the crop that you might see in non-league play, but you still got to go out there and you got to earn it every week. And not to mention, it rains occasionally, and you can get bad conditions. And, there were games out there this weekend, like the Mount Vernon and Cedar Woolley game. Cedar Woolley, I had them in my top 6 last week, and rightfully so. I was ridiculed for it because they end up laying an egg, the Mount Vernon in a 14-7 game. But it just goes to show you that anything can happen. There's a lot of unpredictability in the state of Washington in high school football.
Yeah, that was another result. I went to Twitter, saw it, went to Arbiter, checked like 3 different sources. Like, this wasn't put in here wrong, right? And it was definitely a shocking result.
Yeah, no, 100%. What's on your mind from last week? You got anything off the top of your head that you wanted to maybe bring to light, other than, of course, updates on playoffs, which we're gonna do here in a little while?
Yes, we'll get to that in just a moment. I just a couple of results, just the one that really threw me, and I'm sorry, Justin, I got to bring it up. Rochester beating Montesano. I mean, from what I heard, Rochester pretty much pulled a me in College Football 25 and just bled the clock for 8,000 minutes of possession, and didn't really, just squeezed Monty dry and made them gave them very, very few opportunities to get any success. And it was a huge result. And the computer still has Rochester below Montesano. And I was talking with Rochester's coach afterwards, and just like, hey, I love getting questions from the coaches, because I've never had a coach reach out to me and just like, it's crap what you do, blah blah blah. It's just, hey, can you explain why this is like this, and I'm very open and transparent, and he was very accepting of the thing. I'm just like, you look at the end of the day, you look at it, look who Montesano's played, look as opposed to look who's Rochester's played. The computer looks at, doesn't factor in one result, it doesn't give it any more importance over the whole body of work. But that was the result that kind of that puts Rochester in line for the title there, and in all honesty, that could get them a home game in round of 24, which could be huge for them, because there's some teams in that 13 to 16 range in 1A that are kind of scary. I would want to play
you look at that game there, like you just said. I mean, it's a title tilting type of matchup. I don't think that means that Rochester is safe by any regards. I think they really have to make sure that they stay focused on the task at hand, because I don't see a team in EVCO 1A right now that is head and shoulders above the rest. Now, I do feel there's a couple down that Hoquiam's really not, too much to deal with. Elma, they're okay. Elma hates Justin, though. So, I don't know if Justin's welcome there. So anytime Justin's not there, Elma plays good. So if Elma plays Montesano, that means good for Montesano. But my point is I don't think that Rochester's out of the woods just yet. It's a great win. I think it's a great win, especially when you compare the fact that Montesano kind of handedly beat Napa Fine, who I feel is drastically underrated, honestly.
Yep, agreed.
To beat. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the win should propel Rochester to a place so far and above Montesano. Whether it's humans or computer alike. I am one that does believe that the end result matters. Regardless if it's a rainy thunderstorm, whatever happens, right? Snow, sleet, a streaker ran onto the field and it distracted your quarterback. I don't care what it is. Whoever wins, whoever loses, that result should matter.
Yep.
But Montesano still has played a tough schedule, like you said. They have a game at Ridgefield that they had the lead in the fourth quarter. I can tell you that the computers aren't going to take those things into consideration. I think that Monty still sits above the top 14, I'd say. I'd still put him in the top 14 for 1A. They've got to impress their last 2 weeks. Whoever they play, they got to come out and they got to impress. I think they might.
Sorry to interrupt. Montesano's got Nooksack Valley this week, so that's going to be, and right there's your rebound game. I know that it's going to be a tough one, but if you're gonna, if you want to make an impression to the seating committee coming off of a tough loss to Rochester, that's the one you gotta come out and show well. Even if you don't get a win, you gotta show well in that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I mean, I think Nooksack's playing some of the best football right now in 1A overall. I don't see many teams giving them a great game in 1A right now. So, I think that obviously Montesano's got to really batten down the hatches here and try to, figure out a way to put together their best game plan possible. And they're going to have to be physical. They're going to have to be super physical in this game to come out with a win. By the way, I was watching and commenting the entire podcast, right, for the scrimmage with Justin and Daniel. And I just want to say that Justin was given a suggestion when he listens to the Pick Six podcast. They ask him, "Oh, you listen to the Pick Six?" He's like, "What's that?" So that's where we're at, man. We are at the I don't know what that is stage. So Amazon is going to be delivering the custom T-shirts that I had ordered that Justin hates N2 because he made me about stick my face in the hamburger helper that I was making. That's why I asked him, because I was making hamburger helper. I was like, "Hey, what's your guys' favorite hamburger helper?" And they're like, "I feel like this is a bad joke." It's like,
I'm a bad friend. I love hamburger helper. That's another thing right there. I love hamburger helper.
Yeah. Anyways. So what's the best hamburger helper?
Well, here's the thing. So these days I've gone to more of the Velveeta cheesy skillets hamburger helper sort of stuff. And their lasagna one is just to die for, literally, because it's like a heart attack in a skillet. It's so bad.
If it's hamburger helper, right, I would like to have the cheeseburger macaroni with bacon. Mm-hmm. If it's chicken helper, I'd like to have the cheddar broccoli. That's where I'm at there.
I'll tell you a life hack. If you ever do the cheesy skillets, use ground turkey instead of ground beef. It helps a little bit. Just a little bit.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
I love life hacks. I'm a hack myself, so yeah. So anyway, I know we got diverted. It's my fault.
Yeah.
Hamburger
Right
Helper.
on.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Justin does rice-a-roni tonight, the San Francisco
Good stuff.
treat. Yeah,
Stuff.
that's not bad. Rice-a-roni is pretty solid. I'd throw some ground beef in with the Spanish version of it. Oh yeah, you got yourself a cheap little side dish meal there. I love that one. I don't know if there's a really great continuation here of where we're at. I can tell you this much: I've looked around at the league standings, and there's some absolute battles going on around the state that maybe people just aren't quite aware of, because there's a lot of nooks and crannies and Native American based names that are often mispronounced. So I'm just looking around right now, and I really can't take my eyes off of what's been going on in the 2A class overall. Just that's just kind of my bread and butter. But I'm really intrigued to get to this crossover round. I'm really intrigued to see where ultimately everyone ends up in that. And I'm looking at the 2A SPSL, Matt, and between Franklin Pierce, Ording, Fife, and Eatonville, and throw Stillicum in the mix, I wanted to pose a question. What league other than Northwest Conference, right? And has a legit chance of maybe seeing 4 or 5 of their representatives pick up a win in this crossover round here. And I couldn't take my eyes off of the SPSL in terms of what it's accomplished so far. Maybe the CWAC could also, pull this off, but the competition level seems to be really, really tight in that league. I know Franklin Pierce has ran through him as the 1, but I think after that, the 2 through 5 is pretty darn close.
I think that you're gonna see. I like the Northwest Conference having 4 wins from their 4 representatives. After that, I don't see more than 3 from any other conference. To be honest with you, I think that I do like the SPSL. They've got some. They've got some really, really good teams. I kind of projected Fife to get to get up and get a home game. I think that 3 is pretty good there. I'm Eatonville kind of. I'm not 100% sure. I know they kind of struggled this last week. They've got a huge one with Stillicum. I think it's a must win. Whoever wins that game, they're in the playoffs. The other one is going to really struggle because Stillicum has Fife to end the season. Eatonville has Ording to finish the season. So it's legit. If you've got a must win in week 8, that's the one. Eatonville, Stillicum. But I don't know. I think that when you're looking at maybe who that 4th team is going to play,
Sure.
I'm just not sure that a 4th is going to be able to do it other than maybe Seaholm out of the Northwest. Or if you want to look at CWAC, there's a chance that the 4 could be Prosser. There's a chance it could be Sela. Sela's been playing really good defensive football this year. It could be Toppenish. Heck, it could be Othello. Othello loses to Toppenish. They have they have 2 losses. Prosser would be 5-2. Toppenish would be 6-2. Toppenish would have a share of the league title at that point, and there's a legit chance that you could see 3, 4. I think if my math is right, I think you could see 4 teams finish at 6-2 in the CWAC. So just absolutely wild. But yeah, I think Northwest Seaholm, or depending on who the 4 would be out of the CWAC, maybe them. But I think that the number 1s and 2s out of the other divisions they're gonna take out the other guys.
Yeah, it raises an interesting question with Seaholm though. Because they have a big opportunity still in front of them. And you know what? Let's not put it out of our minds here, okay? Seaholm still plays Archbishop. And if Seaholm wins that game, they could have a tiebreaker. You could have Archbishop as the 4th seed going someplace.
Well, here's the other thing, too. Seaholm Squalicum play this week. If Squalicum wins that one, Squalicum holds a tiebreaker, and they play Bellingham in week 9. So there's a chance that it couldn't even be Seaholm. It could be Squalicum.
Yeah.
I say Seaholm because that's who the computer projected through. But yeah, there's a good chance Squalicum could be the 4 seed coming out.
Well, an unnamed coach that I talked to said that Seaholm is probably one of the best 4 seeds in history, and that they could probably beat just about every league's number 1.
Yep.
And I respect this person a lot. So I tend to lean towards that analysis. But, I still hold reservations because I don't know who it's going to be and I don't know where it's going to be played. If you give me a short list of teams that doesn't involve too much travel, I could see a scenario to where a Franklin Pierce might be a team that could match up there if Franklin Pierce is fortunate enough to get a top 4 seed. Because the one thing's for certain in this crossroad round is that they're not going to play Anacortes. They're not going to play Linden. They're not going to play any of the teams in their conference. So I don't know what you have projected.
I was going to say, I actually projected Seaholm to get a home game in the crossover round as the 4 seed. I have them projected to host Clarkston in that
the Bantams.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, a lot to be determined. I just was that class has really got me mystified in terms of. I think there's going to be some leagues that compete all up and down. I mean, the Northwest Conference is going to do what they do. Outside of that, I think it can be coin flips between some of these teams. And I'm not going to sleep on the league I cover. Down here, Richfield's still undefeated. Woodland has arguably one of the best players in the state of Washington. And then Washougal still has a good defense, and they have an electric player that can run some wildcat for them. And then, hey, who knows? A team like Mark Morris with a coach like Peck that we talked to a couple weeks ago, who's got a real good offense. You never know what could happen down here in this area. It's playoff football, baby. Brady says, "What about Rochester taking down Montesano?" Yeah, Brady, we just touched on that a little bit ago. It was kind of surprising. And then Bolson Sports says Kennewick or Kamiakin, Chiawana or Richland wants to get the picks. Oh, I think that we'll talk about the picks probably a little bit later. But I think it's a good segue here because we can go on and on about teams and games. Let's just let you talk a little bit about playoffs because I know you've got an update that you've been wanting to share with everybody. So if you know anybody, folks, who is wanting to know some things about the playoff crossover rounds, now would be the time to text them or to share this link on social media and say, Matt's about ready to talk playoffs. But the thing is that after he does, you are not allowed to log right off and skip what we're going to talk about because we're going to still rank our top 10 teams in each class. And we're still going to talk about the teams that are going to be playing this weekend in some huge showdowns. League championships on the line, baby.
All right, so let's get going with playoff stuff. So I received an email this last week. I cannot go into divulge all the information because it has not been publicly shared yet. But I was given the district allocations for Week 10 for 2024 and 2025. I got asked by the Football Coaches Association to not share all of that yet, so I can share this year's stuff. When the other stuff comes out, we can talk about a little bit slight differences. Based on, sometimes one team, one league gets 3 this year, 2 the next year, whatever. But let's just focus on this year. So let's start from the top and work our way down. I've got 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A. 4A, I've Westco is getting 4 in. We knew that already. Kingco is getting 7. District 3, which is the NPSL, and the SPSL gets 11 total. I've heard from the SPSL that they're getting 7. The NPSL is getting 4. Greater St. Helens 4A is getting 2. Big 9 gets 3. District 6 between the MCC and the GSL, they're getting 5. MCC is getting 2. GSL is getting 2. And then there will be a Tuesday pigtail between MCC 3 and GSL 3, which more than likely is going to be Lewis and Clark and the loser of Week 9, Richland Kamiakin. I don't know yet venue, but I'll share that when I get that information. Going down to 3A, District 1, which is the Westco, gets 7. District 2, Kingco and Metro, they get 9. We know Kingco gets 3, so Metro is getting 6. District 3, which is the NPSL and the Puget Sound League, they get 10. So the NPSL is getting 4 there. The Puget Sound League is getting 6. D4, Greater St. Helens is getting 2. And then the Greater Spokane and the MCC are both getting 2 as well from the east side. Down to 2A. District 1 is getting 4 this year, the Northwest Conference. District 2, which is the Kinko Metro Sultan, they're getting 5. We know for sure that Kinko 1 and Metro 1 are getting in, and then there are 3 crossovers there that the matchups are not they're not straightforward yet, but I'll share those on Twitter when they are going straightforward. District 3, which is the Olympic and the SPSL, they have 9 between the two. Olympics getting 4 for sure. SPSL is getting 4 for sure. And then they're doing a Tuesday pigtail between Olympic 5 and SPSL 5. District 4, which, as you know, is the Evergreen and the Greater St. Helens. GSL gets 4 for sure. Evergreen gets 2. And then I've heard a pigtail between GSHL 5 and Evergreen 3. So 7 bids total there. The CWAC is getting 4. The Greater Spokane League is getting 3. Down to 1A. Now 1A, remember, is a 24 team bracket, so the numbers will be a little different. District 1 Northwest is getting 3 bids. District 2 Emerald Sound, they're getting 2. District 3 Nisqually, they're getting 3. District 4 Trico and Evergreen is getting 7. Now I don't know the breakdown of that one. My assumption is that it is 4 and 2 with a pigtail, but I haven't gotten confirmation on that. I'm just going to assume that it's probably 4.5, 2.5 between Trico and Evergreen. But when I get confirmation on that, I'll share it along. District 5 gets 7. That's 5 out of the SEAC and 2 out of the Caribou Trail. And then District 6, the Northeast, they will get 2 this year. So make sure, go ahead, slow it down, write it all down. If they're, shoot the questions in the YouTube. If you can't think of them right now, feel free to email me, send me a message on Twitter. But yeah, that's the information that I have from the Coaches Association.
Nice. Any update at all on 2B, or do we know when we might receive some update on that?
So 2B is just straight allocations from the WIAA. So let me pull those ones up really quick.
So it's just crossovers then.
It's just style. Yeah. They're doing old school crossovers. I think they had one league that didn't want to do. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 leagues that didn't want to do the cross state thing. So they're going. So I've got those up now. So this year for 2B, District 1. Which has Coupeville and Friday Harbor. They're combining with District 4 for 5 bids. They have their crossover situation is, I believe, that the number 1 from Northwest is going down. Each C2BL league gets 4, and then the 10th seed is going to be between the 5th place seed in each C2BL division, plus whoever the 2 seed is from Northwest, and they're going to be using a computer ranking average between Max Preps, SB Live, and mine to determine who that 10th seed is. I can't remember exactly what the matchups are for those, but we know that those ones are going on like that. 2B D5, which has the EWAC and the Central Washington League, is getting 7 bids. EWAC has week 9 crossovers down here. They're going 1s and 1s, 2s and 2s, all the way down to determine 9 that go into their crossovers, 5 coming out of the Central Washington. So yeah, 7 coming out of there, and then District 6, which will be the bi-county, or if you're the Northeast, if you're not of a certain age, they're getting 4. I was told that the top they have a 2-tier system. Their A tier is going to get the top 3 bids. They go directly to state. They're not playing a week 10 game. The 4th place team from tier A is going to play the 1st place team from tier B, which I believe is Colfax. And that'll be a winner to state, loser out. And that'll take care of week 10 for 2Bs. And I'm just thankful that they have 16 team tournament, because there would be so many great teams getting left out if we were only doing 12 this year. 1B, they've just, there's this they have a 16 team as well. They're technically, it's not on here, but they're D1, 2, 3, 4 all they all combine. They're getting 5 bids to state this year between the Northwest and the Southwest. There's no 6-man access to football this year, from what I've heard. So your Lake Quinaults and Merriam Knights, which I'm still trying to figure out where they get their students from. They they're not going to have access to state tournaments this year. District 5 in 1B, which is your Central Washington, Waterville, Mansfield, NTAT, those guys, they're getting 3. And then District 6, which is combination of the Northeast and Southeast, gets 8. So you're going to see like there's your Elmira, Cooley, Heartland, Liberty Christian, Pomeroy, Odessa, all those guys. They're doing Week 10 crossovers. I haven't gotten any information on that. I haven't actually sent out questionnaires on that yet, but I'm assuming I'll get that format soon. And as soon as I get that, I'll share that on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, Matt, we appreciate all of the info, and be sure to type a comment in to thank Matt for providing all that info. And if you're not following Matt on Twitter at Evans Rankings, you need to be, because that's where you're going to see all of his updates coming forward for the stuff that we haven't quite got ironed out just yet. But yeah, my biggest takeaway here that I heard in all of that was that in 1A, Northwest is going to get 3 bids, straight away. That's been a conference that's been struggling to get a lot of bids with a 5-team league. So great to see that, they don't have anything really to complain about this year, other than if you don't finish third, you're not going to be in the tournament. But that means you're probably going to see a Nooksack, a Linden Christian, and whoever comes out of the fray between Blaine Meridian and Mount Baker.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that helped them, in all honesty, like the Vashon dropping to a JV schedule and Bellevue Christian dropping the program didn't help classification as a whole, but it sure as heck helped the Northwest Conference secure a 3rd bid there, because Nisqually's down to 6 teams, Northwest is at 5, and so that kind of balanced that out to make sure that they kind of got a little bit more of the bump up there.
Kevin says football sucks and we should talk about Pokemon. I don't know. What's your favorite Pokemon, Matt?
My favorite Pokemon is a dead Pokemon.
There you go. All right. I don't know. I think I had some of those when I was like 10. But yeah. So let's transition real quick. I want to go over. So here's what I'm going to do, Matt. I'm going to go through current league standing leaders. Okay.
DJ Mims, sorry,
yeah.
DJ Mims in the chat.
Is that Mercer Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a so yeah. Good listen. Yep. Thank you, DJ Mims. Yeah. So I just want to say real quick, Mercer Island, right? That's a team that is a little bit of a conundrum, about where they're going to end up being, And,
yep. Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get your projection here as what the computer thinks, because I see them as probably being somewhere in like that 8 to 9 range in 3A.
So that's actually something I was going to shoot you a message about, is I wanted to talk about my hot take, the old man yelling at cloud segment here. I feel like I'm really intrigued. The one thing that I'm going to be looking at when we get to week 10 is I'm going to be looking at the KingCo seeds in 4A, 3A, 2A, because I think that we're going to see this. I understand why the league decided to go with the tier system. I do. I understand why they wanted to do it. But I think what they're going to see is, I think that it's going to be hurtful to them. I think that at the end of the day here, you're looking at, I was texting with a buddy of mine who coaches up there in KingCo, and I was like, dude, you guys are going to get screwed. I mean, the computer in my projections, like KingCo just gets shafted, I mean, I'm looking at my projecting in. I had, let's see, in KingCo, I had the top team I had for 4A was Eastlake. I had them at 14. I had Skyline at 16. After that, we're talking Bothell 25, Issaquah 28, Woodinville 29, Juanita 30, Mount Si 32. I mean, that's just my computer. But I mean, you're looking at Bothell 3 and 5, or 3 and 5, 3 and 6. You're looking at Mount Si 3. Yeah. I'm talking about like projection. Yeah, moving them forward. You're looking at them as maybe a 3-win team. You're looking at Woodinville as like a 4-win team. You've got Juanita as a 6-win team in a second tier, but how does the committee, adjust for that. Yeah, you could look at it and go, oh, Juanita's 6-3, they're better than Woodinville, but they're in Tier B as opposed to Tier A thing there, and that's the thing that I'm going to be interested to see with Mercer Island. There's a good chance Mercer Island's going to be 9-0. There's a very good chance they're going to be 9-0 going into week 10. So how does their tier, how is that going to be taken into account by the committee? Are there going to be, you can't just look at them and go, oh, hey, they're undefeated league champion, they got to be up in the top 8, because I don't know that they're, a top 8 program necessarily, comparatively to what's there. It's not, not saying that they're not a good team, but I just don't think that you can accurately rank these teams. I really think that at the end of the day, I think that we're going to see this tier idea maybe last through next year, and then I would not be surprised to see them go back to your typical Kinko 4A, Kinko 3A, Kinko 2A playing against each other, and maybe split into divisions to do it. Or maybe do a tier system in the classification itself. But I don't know. I just don't think the multi-classification tier system is going to work and be beneficial for them in this football seeding process.
Yeah, they've only got a couple of games where they've allowed more than 10 points. They're winning all their games fairly comfortably. And, if you look at the standings, with where they're at, talking Mercer Island here, out of the Kinko Mountain, they're 4-0 in league, and they've got 2 4A teams at 3-1 in their pod, and both those teams are 5-2 as well. And, the next closest 3A team that they have with them there is Inglemore at 1-3 in league and 2-5. I think that is probably the biggest thing that might, hurt the perception as to how good they really are, is the gap between them and the next closest 3A team in their pod there. But I see what you're saying. I totally can agree, and I can appreciate that. I think that what it's going to boil down to personally is when you're sitting in the room and you're measuring yourself with how these teams have performed using all the data that's available from the computer rankings, and then the limited amount of common opponents that you're going to see for some of these teams that are in the playoffs, is you're going to play the game of who would I pick in a game? Who would I favor in a matchup here? It wouldn't shock me if it's something as simple as that, because you're going to run into potentially, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen, because I think Roosevelt's a really good team. You're going to potentially see a 3-loss Roosevelt team here, right? And you're going to have committee members that are going to sitting around there saying, well, who would you pick if Roosevelt plays Mercer Island? And there's going to probably be a contingency to say Roosevelt, and I don't think that means that Roosevelt's going to get a higher seed than them, but I think that that's going to be a good conversation starter for where you might actually see Mercer Island placed, because there's a few different teams there that are going to have a loss or two. Like, let's use Lincoln of Tacoma, as an example here, right? You see them matched up with Lincoln of Tacoma, perhaps. Who else would probably be in that conversation, from 3A?
Well, my example would be, and this, I mean, it's not necessarily, these two teams, you can't really, I don't think you can really compare them anyways, but let's just say, for example, that Highline gets through. Highline, who's in Kinko Tier B, they get in as a 4-5 team, and Mercer Island gets in as a 9-0 team out of, Tier C from Kinko. So in the seating committee room, you're going to be sitting there looking at two teams from the same league: Highline 4-5, Tier C; Kinko, Mercer Island Tier C 9-0. But they haven't played against each other. They're from the same classification. They're in the same league, but they haven't played against each other. I just think it's just a detriment to the whole thing. It's just there's more. There's more subjectivity to it. It's not cut and dry. We want the reason why we want this, to have this seating committee thing is so it's that you can look at it and go, Team A is better than Team B because Team A beat Team B. And you'd see that in 99% of the other leagues. But Kinko, you're going to potentially have, 3A teams or 2A teams that you're looking at. They're like, I don't know, they I don't know how they match up against each other.
Sure. Yeah, it's like what I talked about at the very beginning of the season with a team like Chief Self, out of 2A. How are they going to be valued? In terms of who they've played and where they're going to end up going. We got a few comments here. Crazy that a team as good as Bothell is 38 in WIAA comp rankings, and we talked about them last week in, a game against Mount Si. And we picked that game. We both went with Bothell, and Bothell turn in another win. They're a team that's playing well down the stretch. We talked about here in the beginning of the show, Matt, about teams in 4A that are going to maybe cause some problems down in that double-digit range, and if Bothel's a team that ends up getting a crossover and getting the win, that's going to be a team that you don't want to see later on. And then Jamal Too Clean, I like the name, says thoughts on Yelm football. I mean, Yelm's just as quality as almost anybody else in 4A. I would say that the loss to Graham Kapowson was kind of nerve-wracking, if I'm really thinking long-term here, but I do believe that they can beat a lot of teams. I think that they've got a good enough offense. Is their defense going to be able to sustain the 4A postseason? And I think that will be kind of tough to navigate. I think by the time that when you get to the 4A playoffs, I think that the amount of teams that you're going to play, if you add up the fact that you're playing a bunch of really good teams in league against SPSL, it takes a toll on you. And they schedule tough non-league as well, So I think Yelm's right there. It's just about staying healthy and being able to win in the elements.
Yeah, and Yelm too is they've got a tough little stretch here. They're gonna play Olympia this week, who, shocked me going out to 5-0 this year. That's not gonna be an easy game. That'll be a tough one. And then they're going into, a crossover against the loser of Emerald Ridge and Sumner next week for a seed going in. And yeah, it's gonna be Yelm is a very good fundamental football team, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they, match up coming up here and how they, how their game translates and moving forward here.
I love this comment from Brian. Compared to a team that doesn't have to play the quote good teams in their own league, we do have a lot of data available to suggest who the good teams are and who the good teams aren't. I would say this though, that it doesn't necessarily mean that the teams that are being disregarded because of their records aren't good. Obviously, proving it on the field is the end-all, be-all. But I do want to add to that real quick. I mean, if the perception isn't good and you get locked up with a team who we know is really good, that doesn't bode well for advancing in the postseason. And really, that's what it's all about. It's not about just making it in. Obviously, you want to get your foot in the door, but you want to have an actual shot to pay off what your season has provided you. And that's an opportunity to be respected and an opportunity to move on. I do like metrics and data, though, which is why I love having your contributions on the show. And you're a valuable asset to not only the fans and the coaches, but, to anybody who, like college football could have used a guy like you a while back. They should have called it like the BCS or something.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've actually tried to do a Washington State high school BCS sort of a thing, but just hasn't. If we can make sure that the AP poll comes out consistently, maybe I can work on that for next year. But yeah. Anyways, talking about. I'm looking back at the Lincoln comment there. Lincoln, very good football team, lost to Camas and Yelm. Can't punish them for playing. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the reasons why I love having the seeding committee in here, because and I'm, even though I'm computer rankings, I'll be the first person to say that you should never solely seed a state tournament or anything like that with using just computer rankings, because computer's going to look at those 2 losses or those 3 potential losses that Lincoln has and goes, oh, they're not a good team. Objectively, we know that Lincoln's a good team despite having the 3 losses. The strength of schedule can only help so much. That's where you're always going to have the brain that goes, yeah, no, these guys are the common sense going, computer, you don't know what you're talking about. These guys are a top 8 team, or and that's why doing it the way we're doing it right now, having the data available to kind of look and gauge your initial judgments, but then being able to step back and go, okay, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Go home, computer, you're drunk, sort of a thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously there's a value to having both sides of the coin, as you know. You bring a lot of experience into the conversation. So I think that most people should lean on it and trust it. And I think that the human element ultimately will override anything that the computer spits out.
Absolutely.
I think that the computer is just going to be used as a tool to kind of measure strength of win, strength of loss, and common opponent. I think that those are the top 3 most valuable aspects of computer rankings there. At the beginning of the season, I think it's kind of hard to pull data, from last year to this year because it's high school. I mean, and you usually can't get a really clear picture. But let's see here. Bolson Sports wants to ask a question before I move on real quick. What is the weighting between comp ranks and human opinion?
Are you talking about like for the seating committee? If you're talking about for the seating committee, essentially what's going on behind the scenes right now, after week 6, each committee starts submitting their initial top 10s or top 16s or whatever. Sometimes it varies based on classification. And so they kind of, they submit it and they have a general database of like, they can all look and kind of see where everyone's thinking. They can kind of see, maybe teams that that other people are looking at going, hey, this could be a good team. And maybe they're like, oh, hey, I need to keep watching that team. So they kind of have a good general idea of what they are, they're looking at going in. When we get to the room, if it hasn't changed from when I was there, when we get to the room, we get there, we have WIA provides us with all the data that we need, like all the objective stuff. They'll print off the max prep stuff. They'll print off my stuff. They'll print off Scorebook Live stuff. They'll print off, they'll have they'll print off the RPI. They'll have all that stuff available on the table, and you can kind of take a look at it if you want. But we all have a really good idea of what we think going in, and we'll rank our, we submit our 1 through 16 bracket, or not bracket, but our seeds. They go to a neutral person. They go through and they average it all out, and you get your initial bracket. And from the, we write that bracket out, and then we kind of look at it and go, okay, where are we wrong? Who, where are the problems? Where, adjusting for maybe league conflicts. Maybe you get, like, let's say that, Lincoln gets matched up with Bellarmine or something. You go, okay, we don't want to see a league matchup there, so we're going to shift this team up 1, down 1, something like that within reason. But that's pretty much how that process works when it gets to seeding Sunday.
Someone on Northwest Card Collector wants to know, hypothetical, if Seahome loses to Squalicum Friday but beats Archbishop week 9, who gets the 4th spot from Northwest? They'd have the same record with Squally winning to head-to-head, but Seahome win versus a big 3.
It should be Squalicum, because I believe most leagues have the first tiebreaker as head-to-head. So if Squalicum has if they're tied and Squalicum has a win against them, then Squalicum should get the nod.
Brian says the computer rankings are great. I'm talking about the tiered Kinko. Anyone not in tier 1 should be severely limited in their rankings.
Yes, I completely agree, and I do have a slider in there for all tiers, not just the Kinko one. But if basically in every tier A league is like just essentially you get your game ranking and it's multiplied by a factor of 100, but then from the tiers below, it drops down to like 95% or 90% or 85%. So I did factor in that. That's why in my rankings, when you go and you look, you'll see 9-0 Mercer Island sitting there at, where do I have them at? I've got them at 23. You see them see Mercer Island in the RPI, they're what, 7, 8, 9, something like that. But due to the weights that I've put on that and the restrictions I have for the different tiers, Mercer Island's down at 23 right now. I mean, I think that's probably more of an accurate representation of where they should be considering everyone else that's there. But and then I saw that second question on there. The public will not see the seating committee stuff going up into it. You won't even see what the initial bracket is. There's a chance that bracket that is published is the one that was voted on. The initial bracket. Maybe just everything fell into place. But no, the public won't see. I won't even see. I have connections on the seating committees. I won't even see what the initial brackets were.
Let's transition real quick. Then we're gonna let's cover the league leaders for each league. I got that pulled up right now. I'm gonna blast through them here, Matt, and then let's get to our top tens. So currently, let's do 4A first. So we got Moses Lake leading the Big Nine at 4-0. They just beat Eastmont this last week, who's the next closest at 4-1. So Moses Lake, the front runner there. Then let's shift over to the Greater Spokane League. You got Meade and Gonzaga Prep both at 7-0, about ready to clash. And then the next closest team is Lewis and Clark that you mentioned earlier when talking about the crossover matchup there that they would be playing with the MCC team there. Let's move down to the 4A Greater St. Helens League. Skyview and Camas both tied at 1-0. It's just a 3-game league with 4 teams. And Camas, the number 1 team, obviously, in the 4A rankings at 7-0, Skyview at 5-2. And then in the Kingco Crest, this is Issaquah at 4-0 with Juanita at 3-1 and North Creek at 3-1 right behind them. And then we've got
that is tier B.
Tier B. It doesn't say that on
yeah, exactly.
WIAA.
Yeah.
Yep.
They won't say it like that, but yeah, that's tier B.
And then tier A, Kingco Crown. Crown means A in my mind, at least. Eastlake holds the 4A spot at 3-1 with Bothell at 2-2 right behind him. And then in the C tier, the Kingco Mountain, Mercer Island, that's 3A, Hazen and Newport come in at 3-1 tied. And then the next team, Redmond, winless. And then let's move down. We've got Metro Sound. And then we've got
second tier.
Yeah, so we got Metro Sound 4A, Lincoln of Seattle at 4-2. And then moving down, that's the only team 4A tier that I've got in Metro League.
I gotta interject real quick. So yeah. Lincoln of Seattle, they are 4A Metro, so they are pigtailing in with the Kingco 4A. So how their seating is going to be determined, they will be evaluated with the 3rd tier 4A teams. So there's going to be a committee of Metro coaches, Kingco coaches, and I can't remember who the other one is, but there's going to be a little committee there that kind of determines they're going to power rank those ones based on, what they've seen on the field, all that stuff. I think one of those 4A teams doesn't make it in, but Lincoln can only get as high as the 10 seed in Kingco there.
Excellent news. Mid-Columbia Conference. This is out of the Tri-Cities. Chiawana 6-0, Richland 5-1. And those two teams still have a matchup against one another, correct?
Friday night, I'll be there.
Yep. Good deal. You do have Kamiakin still in the mix here at 5-1. And if you're Kamiakin, you probably would be rooting for a Richland victory in this one, correct, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
You'd want to be tied at 6-1 3 ways. Yeah, that's what I would think at least. North Puget Sound 4A, we've got Kennedy Catholic 5-0, and then Tahoma 4-1. Except Kennedy Catholic, I believe, already has a head-to-head against Tahoma, so that would be good news for them. South Puget Sound 4A North. This is Sumner and Emerald Ridge tied at 4-0 each, and Sumner just had a real tough battle with Curtis, who's tied with Puyallup for 3rd place in the North. And then in the South, you got Graham-Kapowsin undefeated at 4-0, and Yelm, the next team behind him, at 3-1. And Graham-Kapowsin does have the head-to-head versus Yelm, so GK will clinch league with a victory this Friday. Lake Stevens 4-0 in the Westco. Arlington and Glacier Peak tied at 3-1, but Glacier Peak just winning against Arlington on Friday now holds the tiebreaker. Glacier Peak now is going to be hoping for 2 losses by Lake Stevens in order to win a league championship there. Switch over to 3A real quick. So you might have to help me out a little bit, but I got North Central as a 3A team. They're winless in league, but are they going to be considered for anything special, being that they're kind of potted with a 2A school, mostly 2A schools over there?
No, they would be technically they're petitioned down for 2A. So while they are a 3A team, they are officially postseason access through 2A.
Okay, So then let's move up to the 3A/4As. But I might not have mentioned. I'd say Meade and Gonzaga Prep, they were tied there. So you got Central Valley, the top 3A school over there at 5-2, and then Shadle Park, a team that we both kind of liked them at the start of the year. They're at 4-3. The next team behind them in that league. And then the GSHL, this is Greater St. Helens District 4. You got Evergreen of Vancouver at 3-0. And then you got Mountain View and Kelso tied for that second place spot. Those two teams play this Friday. That'll be huge considering that the GSHL only gets 2 teams out of that league. And then we're going to flip back up to the B tier, Highline and Liberty of Renton, the two competitors there. Highline at 1-3 in league, Liberty of Renton at 0-4. So out of that B tier, Highline would be the highest ranked team. And then out of the A tier, Bellevue at 4-0 in league, and nobody else in 3As in that league with them, all 4A teams. And then you've got Interlake at 3-1, and then Sammamish is the next 3A team in that tier. So it looks like Interlake at 6-1 overall, 3-1. They are probably going to be the Kinco Lake winner. And then Mercer Island, we talked about them a little bit, 4-0 in their league. And Inglemore, the next closest behind them. And then we've got the Metro A tier. We got O'Day at 6-0. Right behind him, we've got Roosevelt at 5-1 and Eastside Catholic at 5-1. Now, Roosevelt has a chance to do the same thing and throw that league into a 3-way tie if they are to beat O'Day this weekend. So huge matchup coming up this week in the Metro A tier.
And that one would not necessarily have a big impact on week 10 because I believe all top 3 in the Metro Mountain get buys in week 10. So I think that O'Day, Eastside Catholic, and Roosevelt will all make it through to week 10 without having to play a week 9 crossover. Sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. You're good. And the Metro Sound, Ingram is at 5-1, 6-1 overall. And then West Seattle right behind him at 4-2 in league play. And then back over to the MCC, Kennewick at 5-1 and 6-1 overall. And then Southridge at 3-4, the next closest team in the 3A standings. And then North Puget Sound 3A, we got Decatur at 6-0. And Decatur's next closest opponent there is Enumclaw and then White River, a pair of Hornets who still have to play one another, by the way. But Decatur does hold the head-to-head over Enumclaw. So a couple more wins here. As long as White River doesn't upset Enumclaw there and throw themselves into a tie, then Decatur's in pretty good shape there. Puget Sound League Narrows division. It got Lincoln of Tacoma leading the way at 4-0, and then a couple of teams in Central Kitsap, Gig Harbor, Bellarmine, Mount Tahoma all tied at 2-2 in league. So, wow, a lot of competition right there in the middle of that pack. Lakes, team that I don't think a lot of people really have on their radar right now. They're leading the Nisqually of the Puget Sound League at 4-0 in league, and then they've got Capital 3-1 right behind them. And then let's go to the Wesco 3A. This kind of got thrown into a tizzy. You got Oak Harbor at 5-1, Cedar Woolley at 4-1, Stanwood, Ferndale 3-2 each. And then Monroe out of the West Coast South is 5-0, Mount Lake Terrace 4-1, and Monroe holds that advantage in head-to-head as well. 2A, Northwest Conference 3-way tie between Anacortes, Archbishop Murphy, and Linden. And then we talked about it earlier, but out of the CWAC, Othello's still technically in the lead at 5-1, but Toppenish at 5-2 has played one more non-conference game, one more league game, but they play this week. And then Prosser, East Valley, Sela, all at 4-2 right there. And then out of the EVCO, 2A is Tumwater and WF West, each 2-0. They play this week. That'll be an absolutely massive game. Over in Spokane, West Valley, Spokane still undefeated. And then Clarkston at 3-1 right behind them. Deer Park at 3-2. Those are your top 3 likely seeds coming out of GSL. Greater St. Helens League, Ridgefield and Woodland, both 5-0. And both have clinched a playoff spot so far. They will play for the league championship in week 9, regardless of if they win or lose this week. And then Cedar Crest. Talk to me a little bit about Cedar Crest. They're in that Kinco Lake. They're at 4-0. And then Foster at 3-1, the next team right behind them.
Yeah, so they will be let's see. So I believe Cedar Crest No, Renton is the highest 2A team tier wise, so they are Kinko 1 for sure, and they're going to play Metro 1 in a. They're both going to state, so Cedar Crest is probably going to be Kinko 2, and they're going to play against another Metro Kinko Sultan meeting thing to determine who's going to be that last seed right there. It's either going to be Metro 3 Kinko 5 or Sultan, depending on what comes out of that meeting.
Okay. Next out of Kinko Mountain, Renton, the only 2A team in that pod. They're 1-3 currently, 2-5 overall. And then we're going to scoot down here. Already did that one. Olympic. Now, this was one that we talked about last week, Matt. We actually picked this game between Bainbridge and North Kitsap, and North Kitsap ended up gutting it out. You picked North Kitsap to win, and they're playing really good as of late. They're 4-1, tied with Bainbridge. They do have the head-to-head, but Olympic at 3-1. Now, Olympic has already beaten North Kitsap, but Bainbridge beat Olympic. So depending on how Olympic finishes out, you could have yourself a 3-way tie in that league for first place. South Puget Sound 2A, Franklin Pierce is at 5-0, 7-0. They've got head-to-heads over everybody. So if they get a win this Friday, they are your league champions. Ording, the next closest at 4-1. I still think they're a really dangerous team, by the way. Steilacoom, Washington, Eatonville all come in at 3-2 in league. So those are your 5 teams coming out of South Puget Sound. And then let's go to the 1A class, the lowest turnout class, it looked like, out of the major classes. Caribou Trail, you got OMAC and Cascade Leavenworth and Chelan, but that's only a 3-team league. You said 2 will get in, and OMAC has a head-to-head over Chelan thus far. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Then you got a 4-team league out of the Emerald Sound Emerald Sound Conference. Granite Falls and Kings tied at 1-0. Kings, by the way, super sneaky. They've played a tough schedule so far. South Whidbey Cedar Park Christian still in the hunt, just a game out. And then you got Rochester undefeated in the EVCO 1A at 2-0, Montesano at 2-1. Then you got Elma at 1-1, Tenino 1-2, Hoquiam 0-2. So a 5-team league there. 2 teams for sure, maybe a half as well. And then in the Nisqually, you got Life Christian still holding undefeated at 6-0, 4-0 in league. Cascade Christian and Puyallup 3-0. Those 2 teams looking like the top 2 from that league. And then let's see here. Northwest 1A, Colville on top 2-0 so far. Lakeside 9 Mile Falls at 1-0. And then up in the Northwest, you've got Nooksack at 3-0 in league, Linden Christian at 2-0. And then Meridian 1-1, Blaine and Mount Baker both winless. And then over in the South Central Athletic Conference, this is a league that gets 5 bids, correct, Matt?
Yes.
So Royal at 6-0, Cashmere at 6-1, Zilla 4-2, Cannell at 3-3, and College Place at 3-3. And then you've got Waluke Wapato, a game out of College Place and Cannell. Out of the Trico, tough league here. La Center 5-0, Seton Catholic 5-0. Those 2 teams play week 9. Kalama at 4-1. They play La Center this Friday. Yours truly will be covering that and streaming that. And if 5 teams are indeed going, you've got Castle Rock at 3-2 in 4th place, and then Kingsway Christian at 2-3. I think you're likely going to see a 5th place Trico taking on a 3rd place Evco. I don't see why that wouldn't be the same, considering that's how it's going to be in 2A.
Yeah, that's kind of how I assumed it as well. As if they're doing that in 2A, then they're going to do that similarly in the 1As as well.
2B, a lot of good teams in 2B, Matt. I'm excited for that bracket. Other than the fact that Okanagan is, probably the prohibitive favorite, do not sleep on these 2 teams here from the C2BL. You got Onalaska at 5-0, and then Toledo at 4-0. Toledo's still undefeated at 7-0. Onalaska does have a loss, but it's to Nooksack Valley. No shame in that. But those 2 teams clash this week in Onalaska. That is going to be a massive 2B game. In the same league, but just the other division, you got Napavine at 3-0 and PL Willapa Valley at 3-0, and Adna right behind both of them at 2-1. And then up in the CWB, this is Okanagan, and then they're 3-0. Liberty Bell at 2-1, maybe the best one-loss team. You don't know. They have a pretty solid loss in their schedule to Okanagan, if there is such a thing. Brewster and Manson also 2-1. And let's see, you got EWAC East. We got Tri-Cities Prep at 4-0. Columbia Burbank next closest and second at 2-1. And then the EWAC West, you got LaSalle at 4-0. And then the combination of Cle Elum, Roslyn, and Goldendale at 3-1 apiece. And then the Northeast 2B, in one tier, you've got Colfax at 4-0. And then the other tier, you got Asotin at 4-0, Northwest Christian Colbert at 4-1, Freeman at 3-1. So a lot of good competition there. And then let's drop down to the 1B rankings, what everybody was waiting for. Entiat at 5-0 in the CWB 1B, and then Waterville, Mansfield, Soap Lake, Moses Lake Christian, all 2-1 apiece. And then we've got the Coastal 6-man, Clallam Bay at 4-0, Northwest Christian of Lacey at 4-0. Both those teams still undefeated. Southwest 1B, Nacelle Comets at 6-0, and then Wahkiakum is at 5-1. And then up in the Northwest 1B, got Nia Bay and Tulalip Heritage at 6-0 apiece. And then Kilseen is at 5-1. And let's see here. Northeast 1B, Almira Cooley and Heartline at 3-0. Wilbur Creston and Keller at 2-0. And then Inchelium at 5-1. And then Curlew at 4-2. Odessa at 2-1 also. They're still in the conversation. That's how they have this league grouped is a little confusing to me, but I read it a lot better on the spreadsheet that you put together there. So let's see here. Liberty Christian out of the SE1B Grape, and then DeSales at 4-0. So Liberty Christian and DeSales both at 4-0 there. Pomeroy at 4-0 in the Wheat. And Garfield Palouse right behind him at 3-1. Man, that is a lot of teams and a lot of leagues to talk about. So I'm glad that we were able to say a lot of names that are really tough to pronounce.
Seriously, a couple of notes coming out of there. First of all, Waloop Warriors, shout out to my boy Anthony Cortez, head coach over there. Good dude, great dude. One of the better young coaches in the state, in my opinion. Talking about Liberty Christian DeSales as well, both 4-0 in their divisions. Those guys meet up tomorrow night up here at Hanford, just a couple blocks away from my house. It's going to be a fun one. I unfortunately will be up at Lamson Stadium tomorrow for Evans Bowl between Hanford and Southridge. It's going to be a lot of fun down there. But yeah, just it's great to take. Oh, and the other one, Clallam Bay. Here you go. Here's a stat you're not going to hear anywhere else. Clallam Bay's defense in their 5 games so far, they've only allowed 6 points to this point in the season.
Oof.
Yeah, in 6-man football. So Clallam Bay's got themselves some pretty good defense this year.
Steel curtain, baby.
Mm-hmm.
All right, time to rank top 10s, and then we'll pick 6 and call it a night.
Let's do it.
All right, so this time I expanded my horizons. Last week I went with the top 6. Matt showed me up and did 10, so I got to do the same thing. So I got top 10s. Matt's got top 10s. Here they are in a particular order. 1B. Started from the bottom, now I'm here. Tulalip Heritage, top 10 team. They're at 7-0. They're number 10. And then Odessa, number 9. Entiat at 8. Nia Bay at 7, DeSales 6, Pomeroy at 5, Almira Cooley and Heartline at 6-1. They are your 4th team. Wilbur Creston Keller at 7-0. They are number 3. Nacelle at number 2 at 7-0, and Liberty Christian number 1 at 7-0. Not a lot changed, except for I think that the best win last week. Oh, I'd say Wilbur Creston Keller ended up picking up the biggest head-to-head win last week.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good one. So let's take a look. My also receiving votes this week. I've got Tulalip Heritage just on the outside looking in. Yeah, they're undefeated. I'm still kind of. I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. They've got a very weak strength of schedule. So I'm still I'm still waiting on them. I've got Garfield Palouse on the outside looking in. I've got the toughest place to play in Washington, Wahkiakum out there, and then I've got Sunnyside Christian. Those are the teams I'm kind of right on the next tier. So going into the top 10, my number 10, I've got Welpenant. Number 9, I've got Entiat. Number 8, I've got Odessa. Number 7, I've got Pomeroy. 6, I've got Wilbur-Crest and Keller. 5, DeSales. 4, Elmira Cooley Heartline. 3, Nacelle. 2, Nia Bay. 1, Liberty Christian.
Man, there's a big discrepancy between our perceptions of Nia Bay here. I got him at 7th. You got him at 2. I'm not saying you're wrong, but man, that's our biggest discrepancy on 1B. I think that we're right in the neighborhood there, though. We got Entiat and Odessa flipped, and then Pomeroy to Sales flipped here. But other than that, it's only by 1 spot. So good job on 1B. Take me through your 2B rankings, top 10.
All right, let's go 2B top 10. So my receiving votes down here. I've got Tri-Cities Prep just on the outside looking in. I've got Goldendale, and I've also got PWV, just the teams I'm kind of still looking at. All right, so let's go to top 10. Number 10, LaSalle. Number 9, Adna. Number 8, Liberty Bell. Number 7, Northwest Christian Colbert. Number 6, Napavine. Number 5, Freeman. Number 4, Onalaska. Number 3, Asotin. Number 2, Toledo. Number 1, Okanagan.
So, again, your teams that you have on the votes, I've actually got ranked here, at least Tri-Cities Prep. The computer loves Tri-Cities Prep, and I was taking a look at their schedule overall, and by comparison, they actually passed a lot of good tests there. And in terms of a 2-loss team, I think that they're the most respected on the rankings. Am I wrong on that? I think the computer had them as the highest ranked 2-loss team. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and one of their losses is to LaSalle as well. So, you've got a very good loss on that. And I think that was a very close game, too, if I remember correctly. I'll pull that up real quick. But, I mean, the funny thing is coming into the season, I felt like a lot of the chatter around the EWAC was, centered around Riverview and Columbia Burbank. But, there you go. Tri-Cities Prep's 2 losses. 5-point loss to Asotin and an 8-point loss to LaSalle. So, I mean, 2 undefeateds right there. You can't get better losses than that.
Yeah, I see you cursoring through because I'm doing the exact same thing right now. So, all right, never mind. Let's get back to it.
My box. Just kidding.
Yeah, I've got Tri-Cities Prep at 10. I looked at the schedule that they played so far, and that game against Asotin, game 1, really kind of. And then I looked at LaSalle, and I'm like, and then they've reeled off 5 straight. That's good for a top 10. I will say that I think Adna is deserving of a top 10 consideration down here. I like where you're at with that. I
love that team a lot.
Love the Pirates.
I love the Pirates. I'm a huge fan of Aaron Cochran, huge fan of his from his days at Goldendale. I love that program. I
have a different team from C2EL there. I've got Napavine at 9, and then I've got Liberty Bell at 8. I got LaSalle at 7, Northwest Christian at 6, Freeman at 5, Onalaska at 4, Toledo at 3, Asotin at 2, and Okanagan at number 1. Again, we're very, very, very tight here with teams probably just being with 1 spot of one another. We could flip Asotin and Toledo and be in the same league there. And I think that Toledo will have a great opportunity to solidify themselves as the bona fide number 2 team, like without question, if they can beat Onalaska this week. It'll be on the road at Onalaska, but man, the Loggers are just chewing teams up right now, spitting them out on the ground. They could very well be a title team, man. I really believe that them with 1 loss, I would probably put them up against anybody right now, and I think they could come out on top.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Let's go to 1A real quick. I'll start here. I don't have an others receiving votes category, but I've got Cascade Christian of Puyallup at number 10, and then Zilla at 9, Kalama at 8, I want to pause real quick. Kalama's had some problems with injury, and they picked up a forfeit win this last week. I'm not gonna punish them, right? Because I still think that even though those things happened, I still think the resume is good enough to be number 8 right now. They might even be able to be good enough to be number 7. So, but I got Kalama at 8, Linden Christian. All right, this might surprise some people, but I got them at 7th here. I know that the media poll has them at 10th, and I know that they got 3 losses. But I can't help but say to myself, who would I favor in these matchups? And I got Linden above them, so I'd put Linden Christian at 7, and then I got Cashmere at 6, Life Christian at 5, Nooksack at 4, La Center at 3, Seton Catholic at 2, and Royal at 1.
Yeah. So I just snapped a picture. This is of no particular order. You may not be able to see it. In fact, I don't think you're going to. You're not going to be able to. My also receiving votes for the A's. There are 10 teams in each. I legitimately have 20 teams we're checking right now, but those ones are 11 through 20 are not in particular order. It's just that. Anyways, let's go to let's talk about some of these teams real quick. Here are the teams that are kind of on the outside looking in for me: Montesano, Cascade Christian, Rochester, Meridian, Castle Rock, Tenino, OMAC, Kingsway. Those are the teams that are just right there on the outside looking in. I think that, and the thing is any of those teams, I think that you could make a case for number 10. In my opinion,
think you've got Kings in the top 10.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I also have my number 10 team as the Zilla Leopards.
Okay.
4-3, but 3 very solid losses and a very tough schedule so far. So I've got Zilla at number 10. I've got Kings at 9. I've got Kalama at 8. I also have Linden Christian at 7. I also have them at 7. I do too. I think it's a very good place for them.
I think it's fair.
I do too. I really do. I mean, I don't think that there's any of those losses you can look at and go, okay, that was a bad one. I think that I love what they've done. And I think at the end of the day, they play the type of football that wins in November.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 6, Life Christian Academy. Number 5, Cashmere. Number 4, La Center. Number 3, Seton Catholic. Number 2, Nooksack Valley. And number 1, Royal.
Yeah, I bumped Nooksack up, and I've been a little bit cautious in terms of giving them a top 3, top 2 spot here, just because I have a lot of respect for the rosters that Seton Catholic and La Center have, and I know Nooksack replaced a good portion of their O-line to start, and in the playoffs, that's really where games were won and lost in the trenches there. So, but I think Nooksack is playing better than almost anybody. Their only loss is to Tumwater, and that's nothing to sneeze at. So. And then obviously Royal, they're pretty good, but I think that you're going to see, I think that you're going to see about 3 or 4 teams that are going to give Royal a run for their money this year. I really do. I think they're going to match up with a couple of pretty good teams if they're going to advance to win another state championship this year. They always do. All right. So 2A, start with Matthew Evans.
2A. So 2A, I have 13 teams on the outside looking in. But I'm not going to name any of them because I don't want to spoil the top 10. So
yeah,
let's just go number 10, Ording, number 9, Seaholm, number 8, Othello, number 7, Ridgefield, number 6, WF West, number 5, Archbishop Murphy, number 4, Linden, number 3, Franklin Pierce, number 2, Anacortes, and number 1, Tumwater.
This is our closest class here, Matt, and by the way, for those who don't know or don't believe us, either way, I don't care. We do not share any of this information before coming on the show here. So I got Seaholm here at 10 and Ording at 9. So again, we're right there. I got Ridgefield at 8, West Valley Spokane at 7. And then I got Archbishop here at 6. And I want to pause and I just want to say that they haven't played Seaholm yet, and they haven't had a chance to beat them. Linden has a 1-point win over them, and that Anacortes has a much, I think a 14-point win maybe or so over Seaholm. I'd have to go back and look off the top of my head, but that factored into my decision. I ran a poll. Again, I love the polls on Twitter as to who should be ranked higher. And I ultimately thought going into that poll that Archbishop should fall from number 1 in that league to number 3, just based on the fact that the other two teams have beaten and played Seaholm there. So let's get back to it here. So 6, Archbishop Murphy. Linden at 5. I could justify putting them higher, but I can't in right mind punish WF West and Franklin Pierce. I got WF West at 4, Franklin Pierce at 3, Anacortes at 2, and Tumwater at 1.
Yeah, WF West. I'm intrigued to see what they do this week. They play Tumwater this week. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how close they can keep that game. Yeah, hi
Vaughn.
Yeah, that's so because other than that, I mean, they did schedule tough. I mean, they scheduled North Kitsap, but North Kitsap was having kind of a down year at the time. So, I mean, their strength of schedule looks a lot worse than it actually is. I mean, it's right now technically if you add up all of their opponents there and divide it up, their strength of schedule is 306. So I'm kind of, I'm not 100% sold on WF West, but I'm not going to punish them for if they come out and they play solidly against Tumwater. They're definitely not going to be punished. But I just kind of want to see. I would feel, going into seeding committee, I kind of would feel a little bit. I want to know what I'm getting into when they play a very good opponent.
No, I'm with you. And I think that the perception early on in the year was that they were going to get that with North Kitsap. We called North Kitsap one of the core 4, in the 2A class before starting. And we both liked Ording, as well before the season started. And, they're still in the mix there. But, yeah, I do feel that WF West is still on proving ground in some capacity. But their wins have at least been impressive in terms of differential. And I like that. Of course, it's indicative of their strength of schedule, though. I mean, plenty of opportunity with Tumwater coming down on Friday. So let's move on to 3A. And I believe that means that I will start 3A now. So a bit of a surprise, I bet, for most here. And I don't know if they would be really picked this high in the seeding. I'll let you tell me after I tell you this where they actually are on your projection board. But I feel like a lot of people in 3A are really sleeping on the Evergreen Plainsmen. I think that Evergreen has got themselves a pretty solid resume considering some of the other teams and their opponents that they've played that they've beat so far. I mean, that game against Kelso, it was 42-35 Evergreen, but it really wasn't that close. Evergreen was ahead by multiple scores at times in the game, and Kelso had a real late charge to make that one look a lot closer. And they did end up having a chance late to tie the game. But I got Evergreen at 10, they're 6-1. And then I got Enumclaw at 9, also 6-1. Monroe at 8, 6-1. This is where it got tough for me, Matt. At 7, I got Kennewick at 7. And then I put Roosevelt with 2 losses at 6 above Kennewick. Decatur undefeated at 5, Lakes undefeated at 4, Eastside Catholic with 1 loss at 3, O'Day undefeated at 2, Bellevue undefeated at number 1. I just want to go back real quick. I really struggled with that Kennewick and Roosevelt team. Coach Danny Solonin messaged and was saying that he wasn't quite sure what the perception was going to be out of that game because of the differential in score on Chiawana. By the way, shout out Danny. Appreciate all the feedback and support and love your viewership and listenership, and suggestions are always duly noted and appreciated. But yeah, Matt, I mean, Kennewick losing that game, I don't think it's like the most detrimental loss on the planet, just considering who it was to, what time of year it is, and again, who it was to. I mean, they're a 4A opponent in Chiawana. I will say it doesn't look good that Kennewick wasn't able to get the offense going, but I think that things could have been a lot worse for Kennewick. I think the biggest benefit for them is that Roosevelt has a chance to lose another game with O'Day on the schedule, and if Decatur or Lakes slips up once, between now and the end of the season, Kennewick's going to be vaulted above them just on perception alone.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Going back to your, I don't think Evergreen at 10 is too far out of the realm of possibility. I can kind of see them in that 11 to 13 range. My projection, my computer projection had them at 11, but I think that that's a little high. I'd probably put them more 13, down somewhere down there.
Fair.
But I mean, nothing against they had a good season this year, 6-1. Can't complain about that. Let's take a look here. So my top 10. I have got Enumclaw at 10. I've got Lincoln of Tacoma at 9. I've got Decatur at 8. I've got Lakes at 7. I've got Monroe 6. I've got Kennewick 5. I've got Roosevelt 4. Eastside Catholic 3. O'Day 2. Bellevue 1. When we get to committee, I don't see it going that way, just because I think that you'll probably see. I think Roosevelt would probably. I think their ceiling will probably be the 5, especially if they lose. I think 5-6 is probably the highest for them, but I would go 5 just to avoid a quarterfinal matchup with an O'Day Eastside Catholic potentially. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, my first on other receiving votes, the team that I struggled with to put in with Evergreen was Lincoln of Tacoma, and I think that they're probably right there as a top 10 team. Lincoln is, that's just 11-10 to me. It's splitting hairs at that point.
I'll tell you, my 11. I have a solid 11. My team is Federal Way. I've got Federal Way at 11. I got a feeling. Got a feeling that they're gonna be a team that surprises somebody.
4A, let's round it out. Have you go ahead and start this one?
Yeah, guys. Like, remember how we were talking earlier about how it's basically 1, 2, 3, and then just like a crapshoot after that?
Yeah.
I have 25 teams that I'm looking at for 4A right now. I legit have a top 25 here. Obviously, 11 through 25 is alphabetical order, but let's start with our top 10 here. Number 10, Glacier Peak comes in at number 10 for Mr. Evans here. Number 9, Chiawana Riverhawks. Number 8, Yelm. Number 7, Graham Kapowsin. Number 6, Gonzaga Prep. Number 5, Skyview. Number 4, Kennedy Catholic. Number 3, Lake Stevens. Number 2, Sumner. Number 1, Camas. And I just want to throw a note out there that all of my Spokane folks that are like, where's Meade? They're at 12. I have Arlington 11. I have Meade 12. So they're there. I'm not quite ready to put them up there yet.
Well, you weren't ready on Chiawana last week either.
I was not. Absolutely was not.
That's okay.
You should see my group thread with my friends. They were just like, oh yeah, it was not fun.
So I'm with you on having a tough time to get this here to the top 10. I think that there's a lot of muddled waters between like 8 and specifically 15. I found 7 teams really tough to decide on here. So ultimately, Matt, where I started with Graham Kapowsin at 10. And then I went with Skyview at 9. Those two teams I think are very, very closely matched up. And I put Moses Lake here at 8. I think Moses Lake is actually a lot better than people are willing to give credit to. And the more you look at the only team that they lost to out of state, I think it lends a lot of credibility to their record in state. I think they're going to be a really tough team. I put Meade at 7th. And the danger here, I think, is that, outside of the teams or the media over in Spokane, to me on the west side, this is a loser leaves town game, between them and Gonzaga Prep when that game happens. I think that whoever ends up getting that first loss is going to be severely, I'll say, underrated, I think, when it comes time for seeding and crossovers. But I got Meade at 7th. I think that they're deserving of that spot. I got Chiawana just above them at 6th. Again, I'm considering out-of-state opponent here and who they've played. In-state opponents, I like what Chiawana has done and accomplished so far. Gonzaga Prep at 5. And then we're identical in the top 4. I've got Kennedy Catholic at 4th, and then Lake Stevens at 3, Sumner at 2, and Camas at number 1. And Sumner, to me, was in danger, Matt, of falling down below Lake Stevens, even though they beat them. I think that Lake Stevens is just looking like a better team heading down the stretch into the postseason. Obviously, head-to-head matters, which is why Sumner is ahead of them, but that's where I was at with that. I think it's closer than what people might want to give it credit to.
Yeah, and yeah, like I like your addition of Moses Lake on there. I think Moses Lake's kind of, in all honesty, I feel like they're kind of, in my opinion, at least in my eyes, they've been very much an afterthought. I mean,
Yeah.
I go through and I look at everybody else and I'm just like, oh, these guys are good. These guys are good. And then I look, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, Moses Lake right there. Moses Lake 6-1, strength of schedule 541. I mean, that's not a bad strength of schedule at all for a 6-1 team. So, I mean, they're definitely a team that I think, and the Big Nine always gets overlooked anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just how it's been since the beginning of time. And yeah, so that's another dangerous team out of the East Side here.
Well, this is it, right? This is how it's tiered. Okay, you've got your definitive number 1 in Camas, right? And then you've got, okay, Lake Stevens. They're always going to be considered the top. Well, then Sumner beat Lake Stevens, right? So automatically you're thinking in your head, you've got these 3 teams that are far and away better. But then you just revert back to old habits and you go to South Puget Sound League and you got Graham-Kapowsin. Skyview's obviously really good. I think Kennedy Catholic is a very undervalued, undefeated team at 7-0. I know that we both got them 4th, but I think that they're just a product of not being able to see quite how good that they really are yet. But man, we're talking about putting 2 lost teams above undefeated teams here right now. I mean, at this point, we're in Moses Lake only losing 1 game again to a team out of Idaho. She-1 only losing 1 game to a team out of Idaho. It's like, we really don't know what we're getting here. I think that we could end up with a case of overvaluing the teams over on the West Side just because, you don't get an opportunity to look and see what those guys are doing over on the East Side. And plus, you don't see them play any of the teams over here. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough, but Brian brings up a good point, says Rigby of Idaho lost to Coeur d'Alene by 10 in week 1 and then beat Moses Lake by 35 2 weeks later. Yeah, I mean, it does make it hard to gauge when something like that happens. So, all right. Anything to add before we get on to our games to talk about this week?
Gosh, the rankings is getting hard this year. It's just, I mean, it's wild just how many really well coached, well executed teams there are out there. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't have Yelm in your top 10, right?
No, and ultimately my biggest factor for that was they played a really close game with Kamiakin, and then Graham-Kapowsin just kind of made it look a little easy. And I think that Graham-Kapowsin's playing so good right now that Yelm's going to play themselves in, right? Let's not, they're going to be there. Can they endure?
Testament. Yeah, that's just a testament right there for you know. I mean,
I'm telling you, Curtis or Bethel or Emerald Ridge, a Puyallup if they're in, there's going to be teams that are going to be incredibly difficult, even in Arlington or at Glacier Peak. I mean, you've got Glacier Peak in there. I mean, Arlington's only got 1 loss.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be absolutely nuts, and I'm very excited to see the Week 10 matchups. But I know we're an hour and 49 minutes into this, but I gotta throw this out. If there are any seating committee members on here, anybody who has any influence, I beg of you, when you guys release the Week 10 matchups, don't put seeds next to them. I don't want to know who this, what the 17-16 matchup is. I don't want to know what the 20-13 matchup is, because, and my reasoning for this is this, guys. If we're looking at it and we, we're just gonna, if we see 1 versus 32, 8 versus whatever, blah 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 down the line, we're gonna look at that and go, okay, as results come in, okay, this team beat this team, 8-1, so they should stay there. All these teams won, they should stay there. This team won, blah, blah, blah. If we don't know what the seeds are from 1 through 32, I think that's going to make Seeding Sunday that much more intriguing. So I beg of you guys, don't put the seeds out there when you put the Week 10 matchups out there. Please, 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 please.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'm thinking about trying to do a seeding committee release show because the Seahawks are on bye that week, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, all right, buddy. Let's talk a couple games here for this week. Man, I'm so jacked for this week, bro. Like, I am so jacked. Like, there are so many games that, like, picking 6 obviously, doesn't do us any justice here, but playoff seeds are on the line. This game here between Kelso and Mountain View is going to be massive for Greater St. Helens 3A, even though it's a 5-2 team versus a 2-5 team. Well, Mountain View's 1-2 that matter the most, and those are conference games. So that game is going to be crazy. But I'm going to skip that one to pick here because I'll pick Kelso. So it's just the way it is. But I want to start here, right? They got the Metro showdown between O'Dea and Roosevelt here, and it's at Roosevelt. Do they share the same stadium, Memorial Stadium in Seattle there, Matt? I think they might.
Yeah, I believe so. I'll check.
Either way, still technically a road game here for O'Dea, but man, I think that this is a desperate Roosevelt team here. I think they've got an opportunity to tie for a league championship potentially here, and they've played some pretty solid competition along the way so far. I'm really thinking about going with Roosevelt on this one. In fact, Matt, I'm gonna go with them. I just, I got a hunch. That they're going to be tough to beat, and they've got a really, really good quarterback. And I believe he got offered at Utah State recently, Dalton. And so, yeah, although I do love my boy David Schwarzel of O'Dea, who's got offers to go play everywhere, as do a lot of different players on these two rosters. But give me the more desperate team here. Give me Roosevelt.
I like that. I like that pick. Yeah, 5 p.m. Seattle Memorial Stadium. Doesn't look like the Kraken play at home that night, so traffic shouldn't be too bad, hopefully. But, Friday night in Seattle. That being said, I think I'm very much you pick the team to win until they prove you wrong. So I'm going with Monty Kohler's bunch. I'm going with the Fighting Irish.
I think that's a safe pick. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb on this game. I think Roosevelt's been playing good football all year long, and they should have beaten Eastside Catholic and just didn't. And played the toughest game that Camas has had all year. So see if it translates. I want to stop at this next game from South Puget Sound 4A. I want to stop at Emerald Ridge at Sumner, 5-2, 6-1, and I think the Jaguars here are really undervalued. This is a really important game. I'm going to pick Sumner in this one, but I would not be shocked to see an Emerald Ridge upset here.
Yeah, let's see here.
Running it through the simulator.
Yeah, running it through the old brain. I should not bet against my rankings. A wise man told me, if you rank a team number 2 and you rank a team and they're playing the number 4 team, don't pick the number 4 team. This is a tough one. I think, I'm going to go with Sumner as well, but like you said, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Emerald Ridge makes it a close game or keeps it interesting into the fourth quarter.
Wilbur Creston and Keller at Elmira, Cooley, and Heartline. Man, if you're here for 1B football, this is going to be a great matchup here. I think that I'm going to go with the home team in this one. I'm going to go with Elmira, Cooley, and Heartline. But I think Wilbur Creston and Keller's coming off of a really impressive win this last week as well.
This is a matchup of some really awesome running backs. Very awesome running backs. I've been watching ACH's running back Carter Pitts for, it seems like, decades. I remember when he was a freshman, just running for 300 yards in a couple of games, and he's a senior this year. They've got, I mean, he's just a fantastic runner. And then and then you're looking at Wilbur Creston Keller, and Wilbur Creston Keller's got Preston Michael. I mean, he's just an awesome. I mean, he's averaging 200 yards a game on the ground right there. It's going to be. I think it's going to come down to a defensive stop. I think it's going to be one defensive stop. Oh my gosh, I'm just looking at Preston Michael right now. Preston Michael on the season is in 7 games has 33 rushing touchdowns. Just
wow.
Numbers. And Elmira Curly Heartland as a team has 35. So it's just wild. I think that this game comes down to a defensive stop. I think that it comes down to it's going to be one of those whoever's the ball last is going to win the game. And I think that I'm going to go with Brendan Walsh's men, and I'm going with Elmira Curly Heartland.
Nice. Onalaska, Toledo. It's Toledo on the road at Onalaska. You got an undefeated Toledo and then a 1-loss Onalaska, both of them top 4 teams. Matt, your computer's got Toledo at number 1. Will they stay number 1 after this week?
No, they won't. I think Onalaska wins.
I'm with you. I've also got the Loggers in this one. And, you know, it might make me unpopular in the old District 4 neighborhood with that pick, but at least the closer to my residence District 4 team here. But I think Onalaska is just playing too good, and their only loss to Nooksack Valley looks pretty good at this point in the season. And their results, they just dismantled 1A Cascade Christian of Puyallup. They just dismantled Clahoia. So I'm going with Onalaska in this one.
Yeah, that's not putting down Toledo either. I've been a huge fan of their program since 2016. You know, they're a very well coached program, a very well respected program in my eyes, and you know, I think that even with a loss, they're still going to be a very dangerous team. You don't want to meet them in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Eli Weeks, great player. So I mean, they're a dangerous team for sure, and they have the potential to win. I mean, they're not like massive underdogs or anything like that.
Exactly.
It's going to be a tight game. I think it's too tough to win in Grittville. You know, when they're built like this, at least. Tumwater at WF West. I'm going to go Tumwater. Yeah. I don't see them really getting tripped up, but a pair of 7-0 teams, league championship on the line this weekend. This is rain or shine right here for WF West.
Yeah, I think I don't think that the result is really the question here. I think the question is how close is the game? You know,
sure.
Can WF West keep it respectable? Can they make it a game where Tumwater's not pulling their starters in the third quarter? You know, that's really what this game comes down to me. Should
we go Tumwater minus 20.5?
Yeah, I'd go Tumwater minus 23.5.
It's minus 23.5. I think it's pretty safe. Yeah. I would probably still go Tumwater in that scenario. I think that, I don't know. I think you're looking at like a 42-13-ish game, somewhere in that range, 42-17.
I don't see it as a running clock, but yeah, I'd look at that. I think that's very. I think that's probably more than likely what's going to happen there.
We should do a spread. Scorebook. Anyway, Chiawana at Richland, man. This is going to be a huge game in your neck of the woods. Talk to me a little bit about what your thoughts are on the Riverhawks and the Bombers.
Man, this game is going to be awesome. This game, I'll put out the YouTube link. It will be broadcast on YouTube. The students at Atomic TV at Richland High do just an amazing job. They're fantastic. It's the key to this game is going to be when Richland has the ball, who's the team dictating play? Is it Chiawana's defense or is it Richland's offense? Richland isn't. That's where if their offense is humming, then they're going to do well. Chiawana is built where their defense is their rock. So it's the unstoppable force and the immovable object, and we're going to get a good look as to who's going to be taking that one. And the thing that's crazy about this is the fact that Chiawana comes into this as the 1 seed right now with a clear path to making it to week 10. But if they lose this game, there's a chance they slip all the way down to the 3 and have to go cross over next Tuesday,
Yeah,
or not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday.
the following.
So so this
election day.
Exactly, election day. It's a huge game for the Riverhawks here. Gosh, picking this game, oh man. And it's at Fran Ridge too. I don't know. I think I got to go with Chiawana.
I think based on common opponent, Chiawana is the team to pick in this game. With that being said, though, Richland only has a 1-point loss to Kennewick and then a 7-point loss to Skyview on the road, 4-hour trip. Two really good teams to lose to. Other than that, they're taking care of business. I think they're still just as dangerous as anybody. They're a team that neither one of us have in our top 10, probably don't even have in our top 15, but I think they're a team that can win against just about anybody. This week I'll go Chiawana because I've been on Chiawana for the last couple of weeks, and I think the defense is really good. I'm with you on their D. So the last game we got to pick because we know, at least I know nothing about the teams, but Gonzaga Prep and Meade, battle of 7-0 teams over in the GSL. That is going to be played with Meade as the home team. Again, not sure if it's shared stadium or not, but I'm gonna go with
they share with Mount Spokane.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Gonzaga Prep in that one just because I got them ranked higher, and why not?
I am going to go. You know what? I wrote down a team, but I'm going to change it. I'm gonna go with Meade.
All right.
I think it's gonna be a close game. Either way, I think it's gonna be a close game. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Meade.
Okay. Well, I think that's gonna wrap up our picks for this week. But man, I want to just scroll through real quick, and I just want to tell everybody what a week of football we've got. We've got Nooksack Valley at Montesano. We've got North Kitsap at Oak Harbor in a non-league game. Spanaway Lake and Graham Kapowson. Technically, I think this game will be good. I think Woodland at Mark Morse will be a really good game. Napavine at PL Willapa Valley, a pair of 5-2 teams. Then you got Life Christian Academy playing up 2 classes on the road against Enumclaw.
I have a story about that game as well. When you get to, I have a story about that game.
Okay, I'll come right back to you for that there. Moving on, you got Stillicum and Eatonville in a big game. Both teams 5-2 in South Puget Sound 2A. Technically, I think this will be a big game too. Renton and Inglemore, both of them at 2-5. I think that game is going to be kind of important. We talked about that one. Let's see. Oh, where was that Toppenish game against Othello? That was another game that is going to be massive and important this week. Go ahead and get your story in real quick, though. I'm going to keep.
Yes. So Enumclaw and Life Christian Academy, that game was not on the schedule to start the year. In fact, Enumclaw was scheduled to play another team that I will not name, but they had a game scheduled, but there was some, I don't know exactly what happened, but something happened and that game got canceled. And then Life Christian had Bellevue Christian and Vashon pull out of their league, and so they had like 3 openings on their schedule. So I legitimately, head coach Herschel Dennis and I were on the phone like a lot during that time trying to find games and stuff. And when I saw that the opportunity was like, hey, you want to play Enumclaw? He goes, yeah, we got that game. Like I was texting between both coaches, like, hey, you good? You want to do this? You want to do this? And they're both just like, let's go. And I mean, within like a couple hours or so, I got the confirmation, like, yep, we're getting this game going. I was just like, let's go. Like,
let's fucking go.
I very much have, like, oh, I want to see this game. And I always joke around with my wife saying, if I made money off of this, I'd take half of it. And I'd just be like, hey, I want to watch this team play this team. How much do I have to pay for a bus to make it happen, But so I'm really excited for that Enumclaw Life Christian game. I think that for Life Christian, that's the other thing too. Coach Dennis, when I was asking him, like, hey, would you be interested in playing this team? He's like, I want my boys to play against the best. I don't care who it is, where they're from, what names on the front, what colors they are, what their ranking is. I want my guys to be prepared so when we get into the playoffs, we know that we can compete with the best. And I was like, okay, let me run through a wall for you, man. I mean, just so excited for that game. But we are missing the most important game of the week. The most important game of the week takes place tomorrow night at Lamson Stadium as
Thursday
night football, as Mr. Evans' Hanford Falcons travel to take on Mrs. Evans' Southridge Suns in the 14th Evans Bowl. So very, very excited for that one. We'll be sidelines as long as Carter does well, and looking forward to some good old fashioned bragging rights for the next year.
Yeah, well, Hanford got some work to do. Southridge actually, is right there in the thick of things right now. So
yeah, they're
really Matt, good. We've also got Lakes at Capital in a first place, second place game. We got Linden Christian and Meridian, although Meridian's kind of stumbled recently, but still it's a big opportunity. I'm looking at this game here in SPSL. It's Curtis at Puyallup. That's going to be another banger.
That's a really good one.
Jackson has been kind of sneaky. They're 5-2. They're taking on Glacier Peak at 6-1 this week. Let's see, Shadle Park at Central Valley. That's a huge one over there in GSL 3A land. And there's a Woodinville at Bellevue. Bellevue's really good, but Bellevue had their hands full with Eastlake a little bit last week, so we'll see. But man, there's a handful of games. We didn't really talk about it, but man, Nacelle shut down the game last week against Tahola 35-0 in the first quarter, and then it just that's it. It's over. Mm-hmm. They're like we're done. We're getting back on the bus. I saw another game on Thursday. I know I'm carrying on right now, but it was a 1B matchup on Thursday that I saw that I got to point out real quick. See where it was. DeSales and Liberty Christian. Yeah, 7-0 teams going at it this week. Both of them.
So good.
And then, you could go on and on and on. But, yeah, the Evans Bowl tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah.
Ording at Washington tomorrow night. A lot of Thursday night games.
Oh, Stillicum East, Stillicum Edenville. That's the other one.
Yep. Oh. Yeah, Omak and Cascade of Leavenworth will be a big game too. So.
Dude, Cascade of Leavenworth, 4 wins this year. I remember in week 2 they were looking for a game, and they put when I was talking to them, they're like, yeah, we're a young squad, we're rebuilding and stuff like that. 4 wins this year. Good on you, Kodiaks. Let's go.
What a week, man. I mean, we covered a lot, and quite honestly, we could sit here and probably talk a little bit longer if we really wanted to or needed to, but I'm pretty well spent, I think, tonight, and I'm very, very happy with the show, and I'm really looking forward to talking in the upcoming weeks about playoff football, because that's really what it's all about, man, is to get to that point. And we'll come back next week and we'll have league championships already decided, and then we'll have some that are going to go right down to the wire in week 9. And just like you will be in a couple of places coming up tomorrow and Friday over in the MCC, I will be up on the hill for the first time, Kalama, Washington, a game that Matt Evans promised he was going to watch no matter where he was.
That's true. I will be. I'll be at Fran Ridge with the phone sitting down on the side right there. Oh yeah, I'll be watching.
We'll see. I'm excited. It's my first trip up to Kalama, and very welcomed by the athletic director and the coaching staff there at Kalama, and I'm very excited to see La Center for the first time as well. A couple of teams debuting on N2 Media. I don't know if you saw this stat I put out there, but Ridgefield's 11-2 all time playing on N2 Media. They have like an 850 something win percentage. So yeah, Kalama and La Center have a chance to bat 1,000. I can tell you, there's a short list of teams that have gone undefeated, and Mercer Island's one of them, actually, 1-0. So
DJ Mims,
yeah, we'll have to check it out and see the all-time records. But yeah, it'll be exciting for the first time to see Kalama in the center, a big 1A Trico matchup. We'll see how it goes. And I mean, either way, I think that those three teams are going to be pretty tough to beat come postseason time. But where they're going to finish at this week will decide a lot. So I really look forward to coming back and talking about the results. And thank you so much for all of the work that you're doing to get the playoff information out to everyone. And again, Matt's on Twitter. Most of you already know that. But at Evans Rankings on Twitter, I am at media_N2. I'm not NFHS, by the way. I am N2 Media. I am my own separate YouTube channel. But NFHS does great. At least when Matt King's doing it, who's too big to come on the show, apparently. So I told him that you'd be on the show. And I told him you'd be on the show, and he's like, I'm the only Matt that I can't share space with another guy named Matt. He didn't say that, by the way, but that's something that he probably thought in his head.
He's a good dude. I like him. Our paths crossed at the 4A, 3A state baseball championships, 3 years ago, I think, down here at Geisa Stadium. And I saw that I got media credentialed and was up in the press box doing some stuff. And I looked over and I was like, I think that's Matt King. And I heard him say it. I was like, oh, I got to go introduce myself. And so, yeah, good dude. Love what he does up there. Love what my pals up there at Eli Sports Network do to help, love what you're doing. Just anybody who's taking time and helping highlight the athletes. That's what it's all about. I say it all the time. I'll die on this hill, on my tombstone. That's what it's going to say is, anything for the athletes, kids are putting in the effort, they need to be highlighted. So good on
Matt
you, kiddos.
Matt King hates N2 hashtag. It's going to be trending before you know it here. He says he's trying to put all these small business streamers out of business. So yeah, good on you, Matt.
Well, let's before we go, let me spoil his the game that he was at tonight. So you guys don't have to go watch it. Let's see what it was. Yeah. So he was out at Onalaska night. He was out at Onalaska tonight for a really good girls soccer game between Napavine and Ani. Napavine comes away with a 2-1 win. So don't waste your 2 hours watching and listening to Matt King on that. Waste your 2 hours listening to us instead.
Yeah. No, we love you, Matt. We wish that you would decide to come on the show one of these years and quit working so hard for high school athletes all over the state. I was gonna say country, but
exactly. Quit working so hard, man.
I'm tired of making NFHS popular at each state basketball tournament and going viral for my dunk calls for North Kitsap.
Just make sure to tone down a little bit. Drink, just lay off the Red Bull and whatever else the kids are doing these days.
You know that I get the coffee from their special coffee stand. It's like 24 ounces. It's like $8. I get two of those a day. I had to drink 2 of them during one of the games that I did in the morning because I was sicker than a dog. It was a girls' basketball game. And I'm like, I think Ellensburg was playing, and I'm like doing it with Matt's dad. I'm like, just wake me up in the third quarter because I don't understand what's going on right now. So
I've got one last thing before we go, guys. For all of us soccer anti-Portland Timbers fans, the Timbers lost 5-0 tonight in the playoffs.
By the way, man. Jeez.
Let's go. It's okay. They'll be fine. They just need to find goal scoring, as my team needs to do as well. But that's fine. We don't need to talk about that right now.
Yeah, the Kraken beat those guys too.
They did, and it was. I'm glad I didn't spend the money to go up and watch it. Instead, got to watch it with my best friend and my best friend's daughter. So it was a good old time hanging out with my best friend of 33 years.
So what was the Timbers thing or soccer thing you had?
Oh, Timbers lost 5-0 to Vancouver in the playoffs tonight, so they're done.
Ew.
They're done.
Playoffs have already started then for I guess it is October.
Yep. Wild card tonight. So all of my Sounders fans, the bonfire was built and we burnt it to the lot. Let's go.
Yeah, the Timbers suck.
Amen to that.
I'm wearing a Portland Trailblazers hat and I'm talking about how a Portland-based franchise sucks.
That's okay. The Trailblazers,
So
the Trailblazers are, that's okay until the Sonics come back, and then we're gonna have to bring it back to the green and gold, and just.
yeah,
Mhm,
yeah. No,
So, but
I've been a
I'm not a
Blazers fan.
basketball dude.
I've been a Blazers fan my whole life. They got absolutely steamrolled by the Warriors tonight, 139 to 104 at home. That was a 5-point spread, by the way, in that game. So
Vegas was
yeah.
wrong.
I mean, well, they had the Warriors favored, but I mean, 5 points. I mean, crazy. That's the Warriors scored 140 on opening night. So the Blazers will be lucky to win 22 or 23 games. Honestly, they're trying to tank for Cooper Flag. So we'll see how it goes.
Not a bad strategy this year.
Well, you listening to me talk about basketball and the NBA is probably like me trying to talk about hockey with you. So yeah.
It probably is.
Yeah.
I do love college basketball though. I will.
Although I did watch the Kraken game a little bit last night and watched them choke, and they had a couple of opportunities late, and then when they emptied the net, I mean, I think they missed on like 3 or 4 pretty good looks before they finally got one in, like with a couple seconds left in the match. But yeah, they got to figure something out. That's early though, but yeah, my wife loves watching.
It's been I've been a hockey fan since I was like 3 years old, and it's been really nice since the Northwest was granted a team, since the Kraken have been here. It's been so cool to watch the explosion of hockey popularity around just my area down here. Yeah, we've got the Americans, we've got major junior hockey, but NHL is a completely different animal. It's been so exciting for me to see all of my coworkers and my friends who were never really into hockey, they're now giving it a shot. Like, to the point where I had coworkers who actually drove up to the game last night and texted me a picture like, "Hey, we're here." I'm like, "Let's go. That's awesome. Let's go. You keep doing that. Let's." And we're seeing more and more hockey jerseys around the campus, and I'm just like, let's do this. It warms my heart because hockey is it's amazing. It really is amazing. There's a post in there. You see that comment about the World Series, Yankees or Dodgers? Do you want to pick that one first, so then I'll go with my pick?
Well, I would say that I'm pulling for nuclear war because
yes.
North Korea. I'm rooting for North Korea in this one. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I'd have a hard time picking this if this was like Yankees Ducks. I'll pick Dodgers because I think that it would be nice to see. Oh God, I changed my mind now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't put any thought in. I want the Yankees to win because I can't stand the idea of Shohei Ohtani deferring all of his money till the end of his contract time just so the Dodgers could have found a contract loophole thing to buy titles for the next, I don't know how long. There's nothing that really makes me happy than watching a front runner choke. At least the Yankees are up front with all the money that they spend. There's no shenanigans. They've got it. We're going to spend it. I kind of like Aaron Judge too. And Gleyber Torres is a decent player. And I like Aaron Boone. I think Aaron Boone's one of the most personable managers out there. And he does a great job getting on the New York sports radio. He does some podcasts, and he's really, really honest. He accepts criticism pretty well. So I'm rooting for the Yankees out of that. It's tough to say that, but go Yankees.
Your nuclear war comment is amazing because my default answer when I'm choosing between two teams I don't like is I always root for building implosions. Yeah. So that I love that. My answer to my family, we have Dodger blue running through the blood. My grandma grew up in Connecticut. She was a Brooklyn Dodger, listened to the Brooklyn Dodgers on the radio when she was growing up. Came over here whenever the Dodgers are in Seattle. Like, she takes as many family members as possible up there to go watch them. My family bleeds Dodger blue. I root for the Phillies personally, but we won't talk about that. But in this series, I'm going with the Yanks because I like Aaron Judge. I think he's just such an exciting player to watch. I like Juan Soto. I do. I mean, yeah, I know he kind of he had a chance to come to the Mariners possibly, but I like him. I kind of, I'm going for the evil empire here, and with my boys over there, John Boy Media, I'll give good content for those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to always root for the Yankees over the Red Sox. For some reason, I just could never stand the Red Sox. I hate the Red Sox. I still do. I don't like the Red Sox at all. I don't know if you can see, I got this wall of hats up here, right here. This is a Yankees hat right there. And let's see, where is it? I have a Dodgers hat around here somewhere. It might be over on the back, over that way, somewhere on the dresser. But either way, I love hats. It's way up there. It's up. You can't see. It's yeah, right there. Yep, right there. That one. Yep,
got it right there.
Way up there. Way up there. So yeah, it's next to the Richard Sherman T-shirt, the Shermanator. So I like them both. I like the apparel. So I don't know. I don't know who I'm rooting for outside of LeMahieu and Judge. I like Rodon, the pitcher too. He's pretty cool. Soto's all right. He's got that stupid shuffle that just kind of irritates me, but whatever. So
let's just let it go 7 games. Let's just make it. Yeah, if it's gonna be,
can it just go? Can it just go 1? we call it a day.
I'd be okay with that too.
Nuclear war. All right. Well, Jake, thanks for asking the question. That's a good bullet point to end on there. So
absolutely.
All right, buddy. Well, enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend, and let's get back together here soon and talk about how right and wrong we were.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it as always.
All right. I am Nick Sisson of N2 Media. That is Matt Evans Rankings. We do appreciate you guys stopping by. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and the YouTube channel you're watching on. Just hit the subscribe button. It helps. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.